That is, I can't really do without smiling. I'm over here going,
How come you can always replicate the noises these killers
Killers?
make?
It's always the killers, isn't it?
yeah. That's how he's so good at catching them.
Oh, yeah.
He has the mind of one.
Gotta get in their heads.
That's right. How did you know I was hiding here? Because that's where I would have hid, pretty. My pretty.
Hello and welcome to Depth Perception. We discuss movies and dive into how films direct the way we experience them. We create a perception of sound, a perception of sight, with a dimension of mind. We move into a land of both shadow and substance, of themes and ideas. Well, today, we must march through macabre meadows of the mysterious mind, through a myriad of moral mixtures. Shall we meander in a manner of mirth, or with meaningful musings? Or maybe even with mellow melancholy? Perhaps a marriage of the multiple methods I just mentioned. A ménage à trois, if you will. Merry Monday, my mighty members of this marvelous podcast. This is the magnanimous mage of machination, Mr. Vosley.
That a boy.
Joined by the maelstrom of the majesty, K-Max. And the master of misconception, Tin Man. My mistake. That was a mendacious misnomer. Let's try this moniker. The Maverick of Mayhem.
I like it.
Tin Man.
I was not prepared for all of that.
Episode 2.7 is brought to you by the letter M. No, I'm kidding. It's brought to you by Fritz Lang's 1931 movie, M. It stars Peter Lorre as a child murderer who garners the attention of local crime syndicates and law enforcement. This is the only movie episode in our chapter on ethical questions, and there are indeed ethical questions aplenty. Our agenda for today: first impressions, favorite scenes, and in lieu of theme, we have a breakdown of the questions that this movie poses to its audience. We'll then go through how this film presented those questions to us, and we will indeed try to discuss and answer them. And then we'll finish with relevance to today and briefly circle back to our previous episode. So, first impressions.
So this is a black and white 1931. I don't know, serial killer, criminal procedural, like thriller. Like watching this movie, I thought the plot of this movie could be placed in any time period, and I was like, this could have been a John McTiernan 80s, action thriller.
Like mystery,
Plot.
catch the killer.
Mystery, catch the killer, moved into the 30s. There was parts of it because it's 1930 that kind of is at a speed that that's slower than we're kind of used to because of I don't know, Michael Bayism, but
Yeah, right.
but because of it, it took me a minute to kind of get into the movie. I watched through it once completely and then kind of sporadically again, because again there's sections that it's just fast dialogue that I'm just reading and I'm not really watching what's happening. Right. Just reading, then go back and watch it again. Certain scenes where it's not really told to you exactly what's happening, you kind of are like piecing it together as you're watching it. I was starting to really enjoy it, like as the story went on. My first thoughts of it were that it seemed like it was far beyond any other movie as far as like a action thriller goes. A serial killer that everyone's trying to track down, and it's making waves that's bothering everyone. It's like, okay, we all have to figure out who this killer is and go after him. And it was such a neat idea. I don't think as far as that time period, I can't see another movie. And there's movies afterwards that seem to have mimicked a lot of how this movie worked out.
Right.
Even
like a camera movement too.
Yeah.
It was like back then, cameras were so big and clunky, and you had that one scene after the crime bosses meet where they're like, "Oh, we'll get the beggars to do the work."
Yeah,
and like it goes through like I don't know what it is, like a soup kitchen place.
Oh,
type.
the glass, the window where it goes through and they like moves out of the way.
Yeah, then the camera kind of goes through everything until it hits the counter.
Yep,
so that wasn't really much of a thing, and then hit this movie in 1931 and kind of paved the way for that.
I would thought that it had a lot of. I was told because this is one that I didn't get much out of, so I had to do some digging. Admittedly, not for theme or anything like that, but just to see what people were saying about it. Just to see what because I needed to garner something, and I didn't garner much. And I think it might have been the fact that I was a little tired when I was watching it, and then the subtitles, and then I was distracted by some wonderful things, and I'll talk about those later. There were some neat things that I was distracted by historically.
Oh, okay.
When I realized the historical footprint on her, I was distracted by it too much that it didn't let me enjoy it. Honestly, it didn't let me enjoy the movie for what it was. I found myself saying, "Oh, look at that! I know what that becomes," and they didn't even know in 1931 what those police forces were going to be, what these special, and that I was just so pulled into that so much that it took away from my enjoyment of the movie.
The crime gave them like permission to go into a police state.
I mean,
like martial law over.
But Tin Man, that is exactly where I got distracted, and you guys warned me about this. You guys said, to watch, honestly, to watch a film, based on the film and whatnot, and I just could not get past it. And I told Vaz at the beginning, I don't know how helpful I'll be. I say that a lot of these things, but this one was for a different reason because I was so distracted and enamored because we're covering World War II right now in global and in U.S. history.
Nice.
So right now we did Between the Wars.
This is your perceptions
right,
on it.
Right.
It is what it is.
And we've been really doing a lot of digging at how a society could give that kind of power to one man. How society, and then some of my students have brought up, well, Mr. Braille, you got to realize, like, they weren't alive during 9/11, but they're like, how much power did the Patriot Act give to the government over people's civil liberties, civil rights, their privacy? The people signed away those things for some kind of safety. They wanted to feel safe again. And you think about these people in these neighborhoods with this killer out there. They wanted their children to be safe. So then you turn anywhere to find any port in a storm to feel that safety. And, organized crime people, or you're giving more power to these police squads. And I couldn't get over, look at this transaction happening in film imitating life. Yeah. Like art imitating life. But what a horrible surprise they would all find later when it even imitated a horror, a more horror.
Right.
Anyway, so my first impression was, you can't escape the fact that there's things happening in 1931 there, not even historically, but in film, that are people taking chances. I was distracted a little bit by total lack of score or sound, but then it also pulled me in. And then until I realized I've been Michael Bay'd, so that I'm waiting for all this stuff. What's wrong? How come I don't have this or that and the other thing? It's 1931. The things they're doing in this film are groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same way I had to watch E.T.
Yeah, the talkies. The talkies are just...
That's right, yeah. I had to set myself back and say, don't penalize this film for not being, 2020. Right. And in fact, when I did that, I was able to look at it and say, this is amazing. I'm not getting as much as I think I could out of it because I'm distracted. And that's my own lens. I couldn't see through them. I guess that's my first impression was like, this is really cool stuff going on. There's stuff that I think is maybe the first time that this is being used right now. It might be the first time we're seeing this camera angle. Like, I thought something was cool. It was like, it almost looked like you were on the ground at some point, like a little mouse or something. As the action's happening, you're like, you're not even human level.
Right.
You're like just like a mouse on, like a fly on the wall type. And I felt like you could feel that in the movie. So I knew cool stuff was going on. I knew that there was some really interesting themes and angles on ethics happening. Some elasticity going on with what's right and wrong. I could feel that. Yet I couldn't focus on it because I was too preoccupied with the historical footprints, I guess. And that's an admission right there that I guess I couldn't get as much out of it as maybe I could. But now I'm thinking about it, maybe there's more to be had.
Well, when I go through all the ethical questions that it poses, I'm sure that we'll get more out of you.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat on the bone. You got yourself a stew.
Little Arrested Development humor for that.
Yeah. You got yourself a stew.
So my first impression, I watched it. I really can't tell if it was last year or the year before, but I've seen it within the past 2 years anyway. And I remember really enjoying. See, I like the older movies because they don't have those crutches of effects and in-depth music and sound, and what they have to use is anything that's going to bolster the story or the message that the filmmakers are trying to do. Mm-hmm. So it's very focused storytelling. Mm-hmm. So that's what I like most about older movies, is that the story that they're telling you, it's a human story for one, and it's a focused way of trying to get the point across and trying to get their story told. So, and then with this movie, you could see some, like you said, some of those experimental ways of telling story, like the camera angles and a little bit more lighting and how they there's overlap of some things. So one character might be talking about something, but on screen you see something else happening. So it's almost like they're narrating what happened. But you kind of see it in modern movies too, so that you can show two things at the same time. You can see these characters talking about something, but then what you're seeing on screen is like a montage of, they're searching for the kid or whatever. So I thought, 1931, this is probably where some of these ideas of storytelling on film are coming to life. So then I try to watch it Friday night, and learning more and more that the work week takes a lot out of me. So Friday night, I try to watch it after everyone's gone to bed, and so I keep nodding off. And, there's periods in the movie where there's no sound whatsoever, even when there should be sound effects. Like the one I'm thinking about is when they have the police force doing the raids.
Yeah. I thought that
so there's no, even though they're marching and stomping through the street, there's no sound. So I would kind of nod off during that, but you wake up to angry German yelling. Whoa.
And that could be a nursery rhyme. It's just the nature of the language.
Yeah, right.
You're shouting it, and the subtitle's like, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah. Well, there's some of it, the word bush is funny because you hear that the bush, the bush, like they were hiding in the bush. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. I just remember laughing over and over and over again because I'm a child. Bush.
So I watched, I probably intook for the podcast probably the first 15 minutes. I was like, the movie had finished, but I was like, I missed way too much to count it. So I tried again the next day and wrote all my notes at that point.
When a film can't rely on all the crutches, how it has to rely on the storytelling, like pure storytelling. It reminded me of a line from Complete Unknown, the new Bob Dylan kind of biopic. Pete Seeger, Ed Norton's character, is telling, he's talking to Woody Guthrie, and he's talking to a young Bob Dylan upon first meeting him, and they're talking about their fascination with rock and roll, or what kind of music do you listen to? You listen to that rock and roll, or do you listen to, there's different bands and stuff, and this loud distortion. And young Bob Dylan explains about, I just, listen to music with, Woody Guthrie. I listen to, just a guitar and a song. And Pete Seeger's line is a great song. Just needs the lyrics and maybe a little accompaniment. A good song can use a little bit of distortion, a little bit of drums, a little bit of distraction. And he goes, decent songs need all the fixings because it needs all the accompaniment to distract you that it's not a great song. And I thought to myself, that was pretty cool. And I'm rewatching it while I'm doing cardio a little bit. And when you said that, I thought, man, these films, even like E.T. and some of the older movies farther back, and again, it's weird saying older movies because they're super old now compared to, watching them like 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, but like a movie like this in 1931 had to rely on two amazing screenwriters, I think it's a husband and wife, writing a heck of a story, like a procedural, that was something that was new to me. I don't want to get too far into it, but I just wanted to go off of Vaz's comment saying they had to rely on pure story and tools to keep you hooked because they didn't have the flashy distractions. And Margot Robbie wasn't acting then either. So, anyway, I thought that was something interesting.
Nice.
Okay.
So, did you guys have any favorite scenes?
My favorite scene is when they trap him in the building. So they figured out who the guy was because they've been paying the beggars to try to get intel from them. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of have like a network of people who were like, once they figured out who the guy was, they kind of just started taking turns like leapfrog following him. The one guy colors his hand, puts it on or chalks up his hand and then puts it on his jacket. And they end up chasing him and then cornering him in this building. But he ends up breaking into it and they got to figure out how to get him out of the building. So they kidnap the guards and then go floor to floor are trying to figure out how to get in, figure out where he's at. And that whole like methodically trying to figure out how to break in and find the guy and Welt's keeping the alarm from activating. So they have to turn the keys on all the alarms, like on what the guards would have done rounds on all the floors and turn the key to keep the alarm from going off. They're like, no, you have to keep doing it so it doesn't activate the police. If it goes off, we got maybe 5 minutes to figure this guy out. Man. So they have like this whole plan to try to flush this guy out who's in the building somewhere. And I just thought that was a whole, like itself was just like a mission heist setup that they're trying to accomplish.
Like it's cool that you can describe it. And if you haven't seen the movie, you can picture that as like a modern movie.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it was before its time in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're like, the one guy's got a jackhammer type tool trying to go through the floor. He's trying to drill through the floor. And eventually one of the guys hears him like tinkering around trying to unlock the door. And then end up breaking in and like, oh, he's in one of these rooms and start going door to door to try to break into these like little storage areas to try to find him.
I found myself waiting for this moment to hear what you had to say about a lot of it. Well, hear what Tin Man had to say about a lot of it because I thought, is this the first movie that was like a police procedural? I never even heard that term before we were talking about Wolf of Snow Hollow. Mm-hmm. And then after that, when I saw that movie and heard you guys talk about it, I'm like, okay, now I know what that is a little bit. You know what I mean? Like a step by step, watching it, seeing where the holes are in there. And this was though?
That was my favorite scene. There's a bunch of other ones that I kind of liked. Like I liked the interrogation when they found a guy who couldn't get himself out of the hole. So they got him. Mm-hmm. And the one guy's like, all right, I'm going to try to interview this guy. And they were like, oh, I'm going to... And I knew what he was going to do. He's going to use some leverage and lie to him to see if he'll spill the beans. And what he told him was... My first thought was they're going to tell him they killed the guy that they kidnapped. Because they got wind that they had taken someone from the building. Mm-hmm. My thought was, they're going to tell him it's a mangled corpse. We don't know who it is. And you're blamed for murder. But instead, he said one of the guards had died and that he's on the hook for murder.
Right.
I was like, he went that route. Okay, so I heard he had a plan.
Yeah.
If that was me, that's the route I would have went.
Right.
And they already had him like cornered. I'm like, they went with that route. Okay, cool. Let's see where it goes. And
I think that's cool. Like good methods are good methods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tried and true methods are tried and true methods.
Yep.
There's a reason why.
A lot of Maxim there.
Yes. That's awesome.
But like I had a few different moments, but that's when I was watching it being like, oh my gosh, this is like a plot from a modern movie in the middle of this 1931.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this seems out of place.
And it's
but
not
it was
even
really.
It's not even the first time for that director because he did Metropolis too.
I did review
that
some
poster.
Mm-hmm.
I did review some of the other like movies that he did, and I know that because I wish I got to watch the rest of this one. Analysis on him himself, because he does an interview, like a really interesting interview. It's like an hour long,
kidding.
and he's speaking it in English. He's got like a patch over his eye and everything.
It's I watched most of that interview
Yeah.
because it's on the Criterion Collection
yeah.
Blu-ray.
Well, that's cool.
It's a black and white interview, and he's talking about I don't know what got him into the movies.
So what's his connection with law enforcement himself? Like, that's my question. I'm curious.
I don't know if they got into it at
Because
all.
to have all, he must have done a ton of work to get all that procedure.
Once
all
he
that
got
procedural.
to, I know that once he got to the fame he had from these movies, that Joseph Goebbels himself went to him to take on the role of the propaganda they needed. So they had hired him. They
God!
tried to hire him to do their
but I'm
propaganda.
my eyes just rolled back in my head right there. Like, no way.
After leaving that interview, he went straight to the bank and then left the country.
No way. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Now I know there's some reports that he wasn't the most reliable source during interviews, so people are kind of like. I don't know the full context, but they kind of pick apart.
That's one person's story about what happened.
I
So
got
I don't
you.
know if there's
I got
more
you.
to it.
Right.
I don't know if you worked a little more.
Exactly.
As someone who is given to hyperbole myself, I don't blame the guy. Everybody needs a little spice.
Yeah.
Spice it up a little.
K-Max, did you have a favorite scene?
I
from
did.
that?
Mine was a little bit more blatant, I guess, because, like I said, a very surface for me. So Beckert's defense, when I like when he's like kind of, he's in their kangaroo court kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
And then his lawyer kind of gets him a sentence to speak on his lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm using quotes here. Gets him kind of the floor for a second, and he's pretty much like, I'll paraphrase, "Who are you guys to talk?"
Yeah.
And then his summary sentence.
His lawyer
is-
did a good job. Like,
Yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
if they didn't want him there. There's,
Right. It's like who are you guys to talk? You guys are organized crime. You would do all these things premeditated. You have sense. I can't help myself. Do you think I want to do these things? This thing that's inside of me can't be controlled. You guys are all rational people. You almost like blaming them. You guys caught me. You guys were analytical in catching me. And yet you still do the crimes you do. Almost like turning it on them.
Yeah.
And I thought he was I thought that scene was good because it was, again, because I think I loved his character in Casablanca. And just being the only person that I recognized in film, that guy, I thought he was pretty, even when he was like making faces, like early on in the mirror, like making the faces,
Yeah,
like
he's
what
like-
Playing with his
what a
frown.
monster would look like.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing these things. You can see the inner battle with himself.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Well, he's doing it in a mirror too.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That's the
I mean,
classic,
well, it brings me like,
I mean, he's the first. He's the first Joker,
dude, I'm thinking Joker, but I'm also thinking like Buffalo Bill from he's
Silence of the
looking at
Lambs.
himself in the mirror when he gives it the little tuck and he's dancing
yeah.
and whatnot. Like that whole psychosis where they see, yes, that's
I-
right.
me.
Honestly,
Well, she a great big fat lady.
well,
You're right up there, Voss.
Well, I
You're
kid
right
you.
up there.
I'm not kidding you though, but like again, more groundbreaking stuff. When I saw him making those faces in the mirror, I'm like, oh, that's a knockoff from this. I'm like, no, they're
this-
knockoffs of this,
yeah.
which is really cool. So his defense was like that move where I like where it was kind of condemning them, kind of calling them out, saying, I mean, we talk about ethical questions. It's like he's saying, how dare you guys look down on me? You guys are in control of your minds and yourselves. I'm not. I wish I was, because I would never do that. And almost like judging them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought that was my favorite scene.
Okay.
I love a good courtroom drama too.
It-
Those are my favorite kind of shows. Like, you know, and so that scene right there is like, yeah, I can't really agree with you, you big, awful person. But
I
I
thought-
like that he at least said, even because that in society you have a lot of people that point the finger and like, oh, look at this, I can't believe this. And if you were to take a look at their closet, you'd see some skeletons in there too. You know,
Well, my favorites are right around that same same area there. So he points that out, right? He points out, like, you guys are all criminals, and you condemned me, and they're about to, like, go after him, right? And that's when the police show up, and the camera stays on the crowd, and they all put their hands up. But to me, it wasn't like, oh, we're unarmed, don't shoot us. It was more along the lines of, like, admission of guilt, like, oh, we're all
caught.
We're all down
wow.
here, like, and like we're all in this basement with this child murderer here, and we're all the same. We're all under arrest, you know.
Oh, wow.
So that was one of my favorites. I feel like I had a maybe not favorite, but just like little things that I did like to see, like when they kidnap him and they just like the physical acting, you know, when they go to throw him down the stairs and they actually throw him, and you don't know how safe this actually is, being 1931. This is
when he first gets to the last room, right? The room that he's entering.
the
one with his jacket's over his head.
Yeah. So it was like just lucky, like he can't see, but he's able to grab onto the railing
Like
to
the
save
last
himself.
second. Yeah.
But I loved his overacting during some parts where like I could just see like a Family Guy parody of it where they're listing his crimes, you know, in the kangaroo court, and they show the picture like, oh, do you remember her? And he gives like a over exaggerated like, biting his teeth, you know?
Yeah. Or when the blind guy grabs his shoulder, he's just kind of like,
yeah,
and then takes 5 seconds to turn and look at the guy who's grabbing by the shoulder. Like, there's an entire mob in front of you that wants to kill you. Who could have touched my shoulder?
But what I think if I had to make a second favorite scene, I guess it would be the moment everything switches from like, you know, we're scared of this killer on the streets to the killer being scared for his life.
Oh, being hunted by everybody?
Like the hunter becomes the hunted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When he sees the M on his shoulder looking in the reflection. And then, you know, he looks at the camera, but, you know, you could tell he's looking at whoever was spying on him from around the wagon or whatever it was. From there on, it's, you know, every single person he runs into seems like they're looking for him.
Yeah. That was cool. There was some cool moments in there where I'm like, that is like a modern idea for this movie. Because there's not many movies that have that modern thriller feel to it.
I got a feel
in
of
that
Seven
area.
a little bit in some of the procedural.
Yeah.
Of the way Seven kind of painted, like just you had this very dark, almost like this very not glamorous, this very heinous crime. Yeah. Right, you do this awful crime, and yet you just see we got to go through the process. We got to do this fingerprinting. We got to do this. We got to look through the archives. There was still fidelity to that.
I did like that because they had cool. the book. It said protocol on it, and it shows the guy reading, and it just pages, and then shows a clip of what he's looking at.
Yeah,
and then another page, another clip, and it kind of like gets him caught up, and you're like, okay, it's just montage of events so that he's now caught up to speed.
Yep.
And you're aware he's caught up to speed.
That's right.
So it was kind of neat them just going like, okay, then this, hole in the ground, blown up walls. He's like, what is this, just damage to property? No, wait, this and that. There's safes in here and they didn't take the money? Like it's him like working through the process of the entire protocol.
It's showing us like a novel would explain what his thought process is. The film is showing you it instead, which is pretty.
And I was like, okay,
cool.
now that's picking up is what it felt like, because I'm like, I couldn't tell at first when I'm watching it, like when they first broke into the building, all the people are surrounded by a guard that's tied up. And I was like, is that a cop? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, ah! He screams. And they're like, oh, okay, there's 2 other guards here. You know, like, like oh, they kidnapped the guards and they're trying to take over the building so they can hunt this guy down. I was like, oh.
I had a hard time differentiating between who the mob guys were and who the cops were.
Yeah.
Did you guys?
Well, the
I would say that's on
uniforms.
purpose.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
But
at first, I didn't know for sure though, but I was like, "Oh, what's happening here?" They're same idiosyncrasies, same mannerisms, same organizational failures too. Where they would fail, whether get a little too aggressive on one area, the police would be a little too aggressive, be a little too we got to keep this part secret. We can't let the public see this about us.
Or that
but
the-
both of them hiding those.
Or
things
the
about
cops were
themselves.
like, we don't know how to find this guy, so we're just going to crack down on all crime. Like, well, we know there's a bunch of guys who steal stuff over there. Let's
We're
just go
going to
attack
raid
them.
even harder.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
you got
yeah.
nothing from it the last time, but we're going to keep just hammering it. And if the goal was to make them lose money so that they'll help out, I mean, that wasn't their goal, but
Right.
that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of neat though that it worked out that way where they're like, okay, now we got to find them, and then the de facto government or the crime bosses are like, you know what, we'll team up and we'll figure this out. We can do this. We're more organized and better equipped to handle looking for this. And
So I'm
they
going to
were.
put a pin in that right there.
Okay,
'cause
that sounds cool.
It'll definitely come back in some of our questions.
Cool.
So I'm going to kind of list off some of the ethical questions. I think I've got 7. You just said 7.
Ironic.
But I'll list them off. You guys tell me if there's any more that you can think of, but I think 7's probably a pretty good number here.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of go through how they've asked us these questions, and then we'll kind of dive into each of them.
That sounds
And,
good.
You know, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on each one, but I think they are questions that have a back and forth to them. So the first one I have is just the politics of law enforcement. So you touched on it just a minute ago about the the step-by-step that we have to do, and then the whole, well, we can't be seen like this, we have to do it this way. And then even towards the end, you had one inspector that was trying to work one angle and work with I don't know what the other guy's title was. He was
I
above
know
him, though.
Lohman was the
Is he commissioner or no?
That might be it. But either I'll call him Lohman because I know that was his name. So you had the one inspector going to Lohman saying like, hey, can you do me a solid and kind of talk with this guy so he can give me this angle here, you know, and then Lohman ends up getting the whole angle that he wanted with, oh no, they're all after the child murderer, and that's exactly what I'm after.
As soon as he was just like, yeah, child murder, he drops a cigar out of his mouth.
yeah, like slicks back his hair. He's
Yeah,
like, okay,
hold on. I gotta get
time
it
to do
done.
some work, you know,
Yep.
for myself. So you kind of see that the politics of law enforcement and police, and that it's its own organization that, you know, throughout the movie, do we know if the public's at its best interest? We don't know. I mean, maybe there's some, we'll have to talk about it in a bit. Mm-hmm. And then I have, if law enforcement fails the public, can the public take matters into their own hands?
Oh, a little vigilante justice.
Yes. So that one speaks for itself and evident through the entire movie. Mm-hmm. Number 3, we're kind of moving to like the kangaroo court part of the movie, but can you condemn a person who can't control their actions?
See, I thought that was my primary one when I was thinking of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I got an example for that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Number 4, is the crime any better if you choose to do it? Is it any worse? And in parentheses, I have murder. Because the main guy that was, you know, the main, quote, judge in the kangaroo court,
Right.
he was in for 2 counts of manslaughter himself.
That was 3.
Or
That was
whatever.
3.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. It was
3 counts of manslaughter,
multiple
yeah.
counts of manslaughter.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's the head of this court that's trying to go after this guy for murder. You know. And then I have, if one can't stop their impulses, should they be allowed in public? And if they're not, is it just another form of incarceration?
Man.
Then we have the very end of the movie. It throws you all these ethical questions, and then it throws you one that you probably weren't even thinking of through the first hour and 48 minutes of the movie. But who is responsible for the children's safety? And last episode we talked about a lot of small questions that, as you break down, work their way into a bigger overall arching question. and or concept. And so that's my number 7, which is, what is the impact of society and mental illness on justice? So all of these questions that are asked before that kind of lead into that broader topic, I guess. So any other questions that you guys can think of, or are those, do those pretty much cover it for you?
I'm satisfied with that list. I have a lot of thoughts on those latter ones, the mental health ones. And it's funny because my daughter just brought that question up just randomly. We were driving, I think, Saturday maybe.
This podcast is everywhere.
I know, seriously, like Sunday. And then we were driving around. And I was like, she brought up the idea of institutionalization. Like, why don't they have those anymore? I'm like, honey, we know better. We're doing better. So, and yet there's people out there doing horrible things, and we say that's mental health issues. She goes, why are we letting them be out there doing horrible things? Why don't we have these places? And I was just thinking to myself, there's a little ignorance there, but then there's also some real obvious questions that should be asked. And when you were bringing those up, I was just thinking, did Annalise get a sneak peek of this podcast?
She should tune in.
Yes.
Tune in for all your moral needs.
Next episode, teeth.
For the Wilson School District, do not look up that film.
Right. That's right.
Well, ask your parents to look.
That's right. Believe me, they've seen it. No, it's not. I digress a lot.
We're going to cut that in post.
That's in post. That might be when we finally end the podcast. That'll be the last movie.
That's our going
The
out.
very last one.
Teeth.
When you guys are pushing 80 and I'm 140.
So how did this movie ask these questions? And I liken it to a courtroom drama, because you have two sides, right? The defense and the what's the other side?
Prosecution.
Mm-hmm. But in a courtroom, you have the opportunity to hear both sides, right? Or even other sides if there's like witnesses and, third party, whatever. But you have a fair opportunity to hear from each side of the situation. And so I feel like that's what you saw here, because each part of the movie seems to center around a different part of society, right? So at first you have the families that are impacted by these horrible crimes. And then it moves into how the criminals and the general public are affected by these horrible crimes. And we go into how the police force and the local government are affected. And then finally we get into, well, how are the people that are committing these horrible crimes, what's their take on, what's their defense, why are they doing these things? And you get to see all the viewpoints and all the effects that these events and situations have on these different groups. So it seemed to cut up, like the movie seemed to cut up to be behind each point of view, So once you saw the family's point of view, you moved on to the crime. Then you moved on to the lawmakers and whoever. And you get like centered scenes of dialogue, like when the crime bosses all met, they're all sitting at the table talking to one another. And then you had the inspectors or commissioner, captain, whatever he was, Loman, and everyone sitting around the table talking about how they're going to do things. And you had the phone conversation with the officials, and the guys listing off, my men hardly get any sleep, and they can't catch up on rest, and they come in more tired than they left. And just for example, here's what we have to do. And he's listing out he's literally listing out the things that his men have to do to keep up with the demand of these child murders. So did you guys pick up on that at all, or like does it Seemed like it makes sense.
It makes sense. I mean, it gave you a quick. The film almost spoon fed you those things. I thought as like, okay, it's asking this question right now, and I didn't know if it's probably not the place for it, but like the parents, like where the blame belongs, or whose job it is to keep these kids safe. I'm like, the one lady looking down there saying, what are they, 20 stories up, it seems like, looking down the stairs. Mm-hmm. Make sure, hey, bring my kid up with you when you come up. Then the kids come up like, hey, where's so-and-so? I don't know. They weren't there. And then it wasn't right away. It was way later. But before I get mad at that lady, this was in 1931. 1976, my mom was doing the same thing. Like, hey, come in at dark.
Tin Man brought that up too
Really?
For the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
And then I said, yeah, but if you're on the res and there's a child murderer on the res,
Yeah.
I feel like parents would have been like, no, we'll be there.
Yeah, because it used to just be like, I'll see you at night. You come in before dark.
Yeah.
Be home for dinner.
I'd hours on end. They didn't have no clue where I was. I didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
I had bikes, and I was down at the
Yeah,
sawmill,
it's
or I was
funny.
at the army camp.
We'd go home and they'd be assuming we ate somewhere.
Yeah,
And your grandpa would,
somewhere.
9 times out of 10, your grandpa would cook us something. So we'd be at playing ball with your dad or with Danny. And then Jim would holler, come on in and eat. Not, you guys hungry? Just everybody went in and washed their hands and ate.
Yeah.
And it's nice. That's the nice thing about small communities is usually you do take care of each other. And that was a dynamic in this movie was the criminal element was like, we still have to, for their own selfish reasons and for their community too, we got to get rid of this. We got to make it safe for our kids.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, again, master the segue, but the film, it kind of brought in this idea of what's right and what's wrong because it unified these crime bosses and criminals and beggars and the law enforcement onto one side. As if to say, okay, child murdering, definitely wrong. Everything else is gray matter. Mm-hmm. But child murdering, definitely wrong. So we have all these other people on the opposite side of Beckert. But as the movie goes on and they go to find the trapped killer in the building, you see that sort of disintegrate. Because now you have the mob people attacking the watchman and holding the police at gunpoint to open up the gate or whatever to get in the building. So you have a clash again between crime bosses and policemen. And then you start to see, oh, well, they're in this building. This guy's drilling a hole. That's not to find the killer. They're looking for something else. Like they're not just there to find. They're like, oh, well, while we're in here, why don't we? So you start to see again. Oh no, there are levels. You have a building with different stairs, but you have levels of right and wrong now. You have levels of evildoers. Mm-hmm. It's not just this is good and that is bad. Now you have, oh, well, these people are good in some things, terrible in others. And then at the top of it all, you have Becker. So I thought it was pretty cool that you had this construction and deconstruction of what's right and what's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
In this movie. And then speaking of the building, I thought that was a pretty cool symbol for this character to be trapped, because we find out with the things that are wrong mentally in him, right? And so, what a fitting place for him to be, but trapped in the attic at the top of this building, right? If the building were a human body, the brain would be in the attic, and that's where he's trapped.
Trapped in his head.
Yeah.
Bats in the belfry.
Yep.
And speaking of that trap, there's some visual cues that kind of lead up to the final monologue that he has because so while he's in the attic, there's shadows, there's bars to kind of give the illusion to being trapped, to being imprisoned in your own mind. So literal bars in the attic, right? But you had other scenes where when he ordered like a coffee,
and then it was
something else and something
cognac.
else.
It was something and then a cognac. I think,
So it was like
where the camera comes up through the bushes.
that's right.
So he's like
the lattice and the shrubs or whatever.
So the way that's framed and the setting that it's in, he's trapped in this, almost. The bushes frame it so that you get this sense of being imprisoned, but then even with the camera being behind that wall, makes you feel like you're here and he's in there, And there's another part too earlier when you see him
vermouth. That was the other thing.
Oh yes.
Straight vermouth, huh?
What was Michael Scott order?
Oh,
It's like it's a sweetener, but not. Oh man, it's gonna bug me. Grenadine.
Oh, it's
grenadine.
But anyway, when he catches sight of someone that he was going to chase, when he's on the street, he's looking at, I can't tell what it is. It looks like forks and stuff behind a glass window. And he catches the reflection of a young girl, where you can tell he's acting funny, I have to do this, But if you look, there's some sort of square frame of some sort, a reflection that his head is in.
Yeah, it's like a mirror, and it has almost finger designs going this way. Frames it,
it's
but
some
it's
sort
a,
of
it's a
square
square,
frame.
but it's diagonal, so it's like diamond shaped. Yeah,
diagonally. And so her image is in the actual mirror of that frame, right? So you see her clearly, and when you see him, it's his reflection in there.
Oh, okay.
But you kind of get this connection that's what he's fixated on right now. And again, but that's where he's imprisoned because of the way that's shaped and framed. His head is in there. So you, again, trapped, fixated, imprisoned, however you want to put it. It's these little visual cues that kind of give you a sense of who this guy is and what's wrong with him. And then you could even say it when you see him. We talked about it briefly when he's playing with his frown in the mirror, and you have one that's distorting himself, and he's looking at his image. You could kind of also relate that to the same thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So then the final basement argument, hearing, whatever, trial was a pretty on-point way of presenting these ethical dilemmas and questions to the audience, because it's shot for the most part as if you're behind the judges, I guess. You're looking at Becker, you're looking to the side at your fellow people in the crowd. You're looking straight on at the defense attorney. So it's like you're on this side listening to this. So it's being presented to us, right? Just the idea that they went through all this trouble just to put him in a fair hearing is, when you think about, pretty outrageous. So it could only be used as a thematic device, to present this fair information to the audience so that the audience can make their own decisions on what they are being questioned on.
Well, I was going to say, the criminal's trying to put on a fair trial. I don't know. was like, they can just, this guy's, on the hook for manslaughter right now. Like, you could just kill him.
Well,
I don't know.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So the filmmaker and the writers, there's really no other explanation except that it's a thematic tool.
Because he's like, do I not have any defense? And then this camera just backs out, and there's a...
Funny you should say that.
Funny you should say that. Look to your right. There's a tired defense attorney that's just, hold on, tips his hat, hold on. He's writing and typing on nothing, Like this guy, stack of books for some reason. He's like, this is generally my office. You guys just showed up today,
I had mentioned earlier, though, the hands up admission of guilt. So the way that they're presenting these visual cues, where everyone is, everyone's involved here. Everyone has something that's wrong.
I always feel too like most criminals, they always have a problem with the justice system. Like, if there was really justice, it would be done this way.
Yeah.
If I got a fair shake, I would have beaten the rap. If that crooked cop he planted that evidence, or he wanted us out to get me an extra grind. That whole kangaroo court felt like this was like, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it our way. Everybody's going to get a fair look at this. And I felt like that was, because you always hear that from like criminals. I mean, if you went to a jail, if you interviewed, probably 90% of them would say it's someone else that let them down. It wasn't their actions.
It's never their fault.
Right. And so like their formation of this little tribunal of them of their own, they probably felt like, this is how we're going to show them how to really exact justice here. Yeah. This is a fair way,
Yep. The cops aren't doing their part. We'll do it the right way.
I honestly got that feel of it, which made the murderer's little soliloquy even more meaningful to me.
Right,
like,
right.
Look at you guys.
So too, yeah.
Look at you guys thinking you can do this procedure right, and you're all criminals.
Yeah.
You're going to tell us. You're going to tell me how bad I am.
Pot calling the kettle black. It's just spotlight.
That's
right
it.
here.
That was interesting.
Yep. And some fourth wall breaking. I think part of it.
Oh yeah.
So, Tin Man, you had mentioned the story about The Shining last episode, where Jack Nicholson would look at the camera as as his gaze passes the camera, he would make eye contact but keep moving. So the audience would kind of get an uneasy feel.
It's like a second where
you can't tell if he's looking at you or not. And it kind of sucks you in. And I think you get a little bit of that usage here, where, when Beckert sees the M on his shoulder and he looks directly at the camera, like he's seeing someone hiding behind that whatever vehicle it was. But he's looking at the camera right before it cuts to that. Mm-hmm. And so you see him look at you, and it's kind of like for me, a way of sucking you in.
Okay.
And you kind of get that again during the kangaroo court, because there's several points where the characters are all looking at the camera, looking at you, kind of looking for your answer, looking for...
They did that a couple other times, too. There's a scene where they're arguing. I think it's the mob bosses. No, it's the mob boss. They're yelling at each other, and the camera goes right to the guy's face, and he's yelling as if he's talking to the other guy, and then it switches back and forth between two guys yelling at each other. And I was like, that's kind of neat, because I really got I'm like, oh, he's right here. Or when a random older guy just decides to be nice to this random girl walking by, and then this big burly guy's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? He really gets in his face thinking he might be the killer, Mm-hmm. And they'll start kind of turning on each other.
I mean, that was almost like a red flag to vigilante justice. It was almost like a warning from the filmmaker saying, "Okay, we're getting on board this right now as an audience. We're getting on board with this, but look at what can happen if you start giving these people." I think about that way with the uncles a little bit sometimes on the rest.
I understand.
It's like you start giving power to these people who are untrained, unskilled, and unaccountable, and you're going to get some sloppy police-ish work at best. You got 2 or 3 people who are qualified and a bunch of people who are crime syndicate 1, 2, and 3.
Adjacent,
yeah. And so you got some good people doing some good things, and you got a bunch of people who are willing, which commendable-ish. And then, but it's like it's like I'll show up to this call, but
like,
when you go to my house, I'm gonna lock the door, and now I'm the perpetrator. It's like I felt that. I felt a little bit of that vibe in this movie. I was like, yeah, we got these crime guys they're gonna set the justice straight, and I'm like, well, there's a reason why we have authorities, and there's a reason why, because of training, certifications, and accountability. That's why I respect and love and have respect for the police. I don't just give you authority because you're the one that you happen to be the Gestapo right now. Right. You don't get my respect from that. You get my respect because you've been properly trained. You have a fundamental fairness. There's a rule of law. There's due process that you're bound to, and you're accountable. Those three things, I give up a portion of my civil liberties to the greater good, to the people that are in authority, because they're accountable, they're trained, and they're compassionate. You know what I mean? They've shown it. And there's a you're bound to due process. I don't give that to anybody who's not bound to due process. You don't get to say what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, that's why in 1931, the cops have a different set of laws now.
That's right.
They're held to a lower standard, lower level of accountability.
Well, even like in when they say desperate times, right? We see this in like I said, 9/11 Patriot Act, where people give up. They're able to tap phones and texts and emails now, and they're able to look for certain words, and then they're allowed to actually search that now, and they're able to, almost like the Alien Sedition Acts in America, like if you spoke out against the government during World War I, or even during even like just after like War of 1812, if you spoke out against the government, you would find yourself in jail, and you found yourself in deep doo-doo if you spoke out against authority. I know, not sure I was going there, but I want to talk about another fourth wall thing I thought was neat before I forget. The very end, where one of the moms says, "We all need to look after our children better," and looks almost at the camera saying, "All of you."
Right at the camera, yeah.
And all of you.
It's like cuts to black, and after cut to black, then it says, "All of us."
Yeah, all of us. That's it, all of us.
Or is it all of you? Either way.
Right. All of you.
All of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I wouldn't usually, but... I mean, seriously, I'm the kind of guy that I think that I know something, and anytime I'm certain about anything at 53, I'm wrong. So I usually say, yeah, I think so.
But that was the last example I was going to give of this fourth wall. And like I said, the previous ones, they teeter on fourth wall breaking. They're looking at the camera. They're not exactly acknowledging the audience while they're doing that. But there's certainly purpose to them staring at us as these things are happening. And then the last one, like you mentioned.
This will not bring our children back. One has to keep close watch over the children. Mm-hmm. All of you. Mm-hmm. Here you go. I'm rewatching it right now.
Yeah, screen fades to black.
Yep. Mm. Yeah, because it shows up after it goes black. All of you. Yep.
Mm-hmm. The one thing before I forget, though, was the use of smoking.
Quite the use of smoking.
Well, there was... It happened a lot during I talked about those scenes where the crime syndicates are talking and then the police are talking. During those two scenes especially, both groups are smoking a lot, and that seems to be the binding visual element, is this cloud of smoke that they're all in.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll circle back to these questions and see if we can do them any justice here. Get it? Justice.
We'll see what we can do.
So the
justice is blind. Blind man with his creepy balloons.
So what do you guys think about the politics of law enforcement that showed up in the movie?
I'm going to defer to my law enforcement co-host.
What do you mean by politics?
So there was... I feel like there were points in the movie where the focus wasn't so much on keeping the public safe or catching this child killer.
There are a lot of optics.
Even the way
Yeah,
that they
exactly.
went about it was like, it seemed all misguided, or it's like, well, we don't know how to do it, so we'll just do what we've been doing, more of it.
Yeah.
And it's
Like we'll
well,
become more militant.
Yeah.
They'll have less freedom. The whole public will have less freedom.
Yeah, it's like, well, we've punched this hole in the wall 12 times. If we punch it 12 more, maybe something else will fall out. Like, hey,
Well, then
you're
it's
beating
also
the dead
saying,
horse there. Yeah.
well, if I'm using that same example you just did, look how beat our hand is from punching this wall.
Yeah.
That was it. Spending a lot of time saying, "Look at how beat up my guys."
Like
are."
we're trying.
Yeah.
Look at us. We're
Look how
doing this.
tired we are.
And
we
it's,
must be doing like.
I say it's natural for any career or any service agency to. It's valid. It's valid. There's a lot of it that's valid. You know what I mean? It's like, yes. I think in Wolf of Snow Hollow, when they were getting the public criticism, I keep going back to the other movies we watched. They're getting criticism
such a
from
funny
people
reaction.
driving by, and even
Yeah.
like the mortician, the morgue guy at the morgue, like criticizing them. Like, you got nothing yet, and he's actually spilling to the media.
It's
like
it's a neat thing.
everybody can do it better.
Yeah.
Everybody can do it better. I'm like, you're not bound by rule of law and procedure, though.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. There's a again, soapbox time in America and in a lot of Western societies. There's so much criticism on law enforcement and the rule of law. Like, oh, you gotta get done fast, you gotta be so detailed. Otherwise, someone walks that shouldn't walk. I mean, get me an answer right away. Find me the answer right away. Yeah, but you realize if we don't do this the right way, the perpetrator is going to get off totally scot-free. No, I don't care about that. You worry about that. Well, yet you're still holding me accountable for being done fast.
I've seen it. I've been in the district attorney's office when a murder case that I just happened to be working in a different case, but I was in the office at the same time. They were like, this guy who's on, being charged with murder might get off because this little piece of evidence, it's not even real evidence, it's note cards. So in New York State, from after the 2020 bail reform, if you write a note just as you're doing your investigation on an index card that you threw in your pocket, doesn't have any evidence on it whatsoever, it has information. I interviewed one person, I got their name and date of birth on this card. That card isn't put into evidence and given to the DAs for discovery, you could throw your case out.
Oh.
That little piece of paper that has no information that's useful on it, that's not even being used against the defendant, could toss your case. That's what the New York State is like right now.
Oh, boy.
And so it's true. You have to be meticulous. You have to be, and then you have to, like, there's times now where I'm like, before I was one of those guys who was just like, yeah, have your camera on for everything. Now I'm like, hold on, don't have your camera on for everything because it's going to be used against you for discovery.
Yeah.
Not that I want to protect myself from me being a scumbag, turn it off. No, everybody shut yours off. Let me keep mine on, because if you guys have something, write a note that's not related to the case. You're going to ruin my case.
That's right.
Whole bunch of new law stuff. I just had a case where I had found 2 loaded needles with methamphetamine, liquid methamphetamine on the guy. But because of him not being arrested, I can take the property from him, but I can't charge him with the property.
I see.
It was like, I'm like, oh, okay. So if I find a gun on someone who I'm giving let's say I'm giving him a ride, pat him down, because you can't get in my car without me patting you down, and I find a gun on him, like, yeah, you can't charge him.
No
Illegal
kidding.
Stolen gun in his pocket, and I can't charge him with it? Like, nope. It's New York State. So now I just want to know the rules, how to play the game better. But that's where we are now.
Yeah.
And then, which is whatever. It's New York State.
Yeah.
I get it. But we got to be smarter and play the rules better. It's just playing the game.
It's hard.
But in this time, they're not playing rules at all. There's going to be, how do we do what we normally do? And then in the police world, like, you can do everything a certain way, procedure. But when new issues and new problems come up, chief comes in and says, hey, we got to adapt and fix this new problem. You guys got to change it up and do something different, which is like, it's rare. They do come up. Hey, we got this big problem with this one guy. He's cooking meth, or this guy we know is moving guns. We're going to stay away from this house. And when we do make contact, you have multiple people, and you're going to have a lot of plainclothes guys in this area. So stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they don't have any, hey, let's pivot, adapt. Like, let's try to attack this at the right angle, not just do the same exact thing over and over again. And
I thought it was interesting.
Police have come in a long way in the last
I think it's
Seriously.
100 years,
I feel like that still plays into this question, though, because because they have to follow because they still have rules, the police in this movie, and they still have process of how they do things. So they're following that process instead of just doing what's right and trying to catch this guy. And it takes these criminals to think of a way to do it.
Yeah.
So
because they're still coming down hard on the criminals. They were like, "Let me see your papers," and they were like, "Nah, you get to go to the jail. Nah, you get
Wasn't
to go to
that
jail."
funny?
Like and they're
that
like
scene was almost
smug.
comical
It was
to
like
me.
smug about it too.
Yeah,
Like, "No, I have my papers. Fake. Throw them in."
And the next one is like the next one didn't even listen to the thing. Join him.
Join him. Yeah.
He's like, "Where's your papers?" "I don't have any."
Yeah.
They're like, "Go." He's like, "Yep."
Yep. It's like they were like, it gave them grounds to be as militant or as martial law state as they wanted to, and it was like, no, if you guys are going at this level, go look for clues that brings you to this guy. Not, I know this guy's a criminal, throw him in there, throw this guy. Like,
right. So that's part of these. Even though it's not like written process, it's more it's their culture, their process.
They were just throwing a big net at everything.
I mean,
and a guy confesses. I wasn't sure.
So that's the quote ethical dilemma that we're being shown is this the right way to be?
If that was happening
policing?
now, I feel like it wouldn't be the criminals. It would be criminals and I think like everybody would try to join in this fight. There's a big push to do like what's called like community policing, and just like make people more comfortable talking to the cops, which is like, it's always been a big thing, especially on the res. I grew up the same way. It's just like, no, it's us versus them.
Yeah.
Now we want them to be like, hey, people who come by, the last picnic I was at, there was one girl cop from Lewiston just milling about eating corn soup. And I was like, why is she here? And they're like, no, she's just mingling.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the first time uniformed officers showed up at the picnic just to mingle.
Yeah.
It's a good sign. But
Like, you don't even do that.
I was trying to smoke dance in my uniform last night.
That sounds like a workout.
Just all sweaty, like I'm going home.
His sidearm going off. Right, he's really going after it.
Just that last beat.
Well, it's so funny that we're talking about like law enforcement in 1931, pretty much on Crystal Night Eve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like looking at the taking away individual liberties for the state, giving it up for the state, letting the state have more and more power. And there's a little social commentary there, a lot of social commentary there. When you look at the state, the historical stamp saying, boom, you see some of the uniforms, some of those squads had, some of the formations they walked in, going from building to building, searching.
They look like the hyenas from Lion King.
Yeah, honest to goodness, right? And I almost was looking for it here, the
Yeah.
as they walk.
Like the
As they
big
walk
steps.
through. Pow.
Yeah.
Go to the next place, like almost like Schindler when they're going up the stairs and you see the shots and you see the shadows and things. It felt like that, but you didn't have any of the sound.
Right, there was no sound
until
for some
the
of those
dialogue
spots,
came.
yeah.
I was like sitting there thinking, something wrong with my streaming service? HBO Max, you owe me one.
Well, so that kind of leads into the next question then. If law enforcement fails the public, can the public take matters into their own hands?
Man,
I like that question.
that's a tough question. In movies, always.
Always,
I
yeah.
love the movie. I love the vigilantes in movies. And I think back, take a step back, saying, no, because I'm a fan of due process of law. I'm a fan of having my due process. I'm a fan of accountability for those holding me accountable.
Well, like you said earlier, though, with your example of the uncles, how do you get the respect, and how is someone deemed worthy to make those decisions? That's someone that has the education, has the training, who has the credentials to be doing so.
That was my claim throughout that whole to current day.
And I feel like for me, the answer is no, because you're relying on the general public who you don't know their background of each of these individuals that are making these decisions. Like in America, you could be asking some racists to make a decision on who burgled what, or you know, and you kind of get into some other ethics there. But to me, there's too many variables when you say cops can't get it done. Let's open it up to whoever can.
Right.
So I think there's the first and second questions are pretty related to each other, because then it goes back to, okay, well then we have to make sure that the police are well versed in how to handle multiple different situations with multiple different methods.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I always say, hey, again, I'm not in politics, but I'm like funded, trained, and supported. That, I mean, I think because then if you go outside of that, you look at these communities that have tried to, and there's varying levels of success throughout the country, right? There's different levels of success with community involvement and things like that. But at the end of the day, for me to feel safe as I can, and for my children, and in any neighborhood that I live in, I want funds put to have proper training, certifications, accountability, and then also support. Then when they have these certifications, they're properly trained, and you see examples. I see more examples of good examples than I do bad. Sadly, the bad examples get the airtime, and that makes it hard for the public at large to support. But if you just take a look and you sit and you step back, not just Tin Man, but like so many others that if you know them personally, hear the stories, you see examples of people that are properly trained, that are competent, that have practice, that have experience, and that handle real hard situations and really, really tight situations in very, very humane ways. More often than not, in my own experience in 53 years, I don't hear about those very often. You don't read about them in social media. You don't hear, but I'd say 95% of them are exactly that. And you got your, I don't want to give names of officers, but different friends that give someone a ride home, will call someone's parents, will get a hold of someone to say, hey, can you come give someone a ride, or can you, they look like they're in a bad way. You might not want them to let them get behind a wheel or something like that. Come pick them up or something like that. Or even like my son walking in Lewiston or something, and instead of someone just saying, hey, you're out late or whatever you're doing, so they're aren't you so and so's kid? He goes, what are you doing out late or whatever, like kind of busting his chops a little, and he responds in a way that's good, and maybe getting a ride home or something, or maybe the officer fires me a text and say, hey, he's out right now, and like a community based thing, but they don't have, to me, you don't get that, and I don't know if I'll ever give it to anybody who's not a badge wearing, because to me the badge means accountability as much as it does authority, and I think it waters it down. I'll be honest with you. In my own community, when I'm seeing other folks trying to do that, I'm like, first of all, you're a bigger criminal than anybody you're pulling over right now. And I'm not saying every police officer is a saint. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is that there's a training, there's a competency, and there's an accountability that comes with that badge. Because they're accountable to reports and due process. I mean, more than probably allows for good police work. But there's such an accountability there that if anything that happens to me, it's going to be looked at. If someone else without a badge tries to police me, it's me and them. I'm just as right as they are. And that's where any kind of those community policing or whatever, no matter how well intended, they fall short. And they just will not have my respect. They'll have my respect for whenever anybody's trying to move the needle to the good, they'll get that. But as far as my daughter pulling over for an unmarked car, an unbadged officer, never. And God help them if she tries to get away from them, a strange car that has authority that's not marked, and she gets in a wreck or something, or that's trouble for everybody. Because, they're with any of that vigilante justice, like I said, I started off my answer saying in the movies, yes. In reality, never. I agree with you 100% on that. Because you go down slippery slopes. You get someone that says, oh, I'm not going to give personal names, but like I remember when some local groups were doing that, and I'm looking at some of the leaders, and I'm like, you're the person that I want to be my kids protected against. You are the person, and you're the head of this right now. And I felt like we were taking crazy pills for a couple of years there. I'm like, what are we doing?
So to add some context to this to listeners, we're from the Tuscarora Nation, and on the reservation they still exist, but they're a group of middle-aged men called themselves the Uncles, and their goal was to keep the reservation safe, in whatever terms that might mean. But they would only go out late at night. When it first started, they were patrolling like the borders of the res, the roadways. They would shine lights in the cars and ask who, why are you here and who are you and all that. And so it was a pretty big ethical dilemma in its own right, because, like K-Max said, some of these people have their own criminal history, and they're trying to police these roads.
It was almost a who's who, if I could be honest.
Yeah, it was people that I wouldn't want to be alone in a room with, that were trying to decide what's safe and not for the community. Let alone anything close to police training.
Yeah, it came about when one specific, but multiple known car thieves were using the res as a safe haven to move drugs, stolen property, and then it became a nation safety issue. And so guys who were willing to kind of do police work were guys who were like, yeah, I'll fight. I'll carry a gun.
I got nothing to live for.
And so, and so it became, at points, it was doing well, but it started to push against some of the local law enforcement at the same time, and then some of the local residents at the same time, and then within their own ranks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
we won't go into specific.
We won't
examples.
need to go into specifics.
It's nothing like that anymore. But
anyway, right now,
that's just the context for when we mentioned that.
What they've been doing is blocking traffic for funerals, helping escort for fire, like when fire departments have to come out if there's fires and stuff.
Having I know they use the old gym for just to hang out.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, there were times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to show up. So I was showing up on some of them to try to point them to, let me do the talking, let me do you guys stay over here, I'll do this part. and my dad was a good chunk of trying to do that for them as well. Mm-hmm. But to get back to this.
Yes, Tin Man. Do you like a good vigilante messing up your plans?
I disagree with you guys. Oddly enough, I am the one who's going to say...
Hit us.
When law enforcement fails, vigilantism, I don't... It's a very slippery slope. But I feel that certain situations justify vigilantism. I do. But... knowing that if you cross a line doing what you think is just when all other in-place law enforcement or whatever fails, you will just eat the cost if you have to, I think. Sometimes it allows for it.
How do you feel in the film's example?
I feel like they tried to mimic, maybe like the Uncles, they tried to mimic actual law enforcement too much instead of staying in their own lane. Like if they had just caught the guy and had their way with him and tried not to pretend.
Yeah.
They tried to go, hey, we're just like the real courts. Like, no, you're not. You got your own laws.
Yeah.
Your law of the land. This is the jungle over here. You're not this group. This group's got its own set of rules. You got your own set. Follow those rules. You don't need to follow their rules. And I think they did a better job of hunting him down. Absolutely did. They did it in a way that hurt people, broke property. They did it in a way that's not the most tact or policy-friendly way, but they got the job done.
And in movies, that's what I'm drawn to that in movies. But in reality, man, it's like the worst-case scenario.
Oh, you're not going to get an organized group to actually meticulously hunt someone down like that.
Right. But I think,
is it like a real mob? Like we had a real... We had a Magadino family in Niagara Falls that was doing a better job than some of the law enforcement keeping because you actually paid the cost. You know, you crossed the line. You got what you got. And so there's a little bit of what's known in my studies as deterrence comes as it's swift, certain, and severe. And all of the extra red tape and loopholes that come with New York State now, it's not swift or certain or severe anymore. You know?
Anything but certain.
Anything but certain, right?
Anything but swift.
Yeah, almost all those things.
Yeah.
It's like you're
It's
working with
severe
handcuffs.
for someone, though.
Yeah, working with handcuffs on. You guys are the, it seems like you get your legs cut out from under you. And again, when you know better, do better in every trade. But it's like at the same time, it's like sometimes you got to let people do the job. Sometimes you got to train them, certify them, and let them do their job. And then just keep making sure that they have the resources they need, as long as there's still accountability and meeting the standards of what you set forth for good law enforcement. There's nothing wrong with internal audits. There's nothing wrong with accountability.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any of that.
And I love that about where I'm at, because you can walk into the office and go, I want to talk to the chief, and he's right here. You can point at a wall and it's got all of our photos on it. Like that's the one I want to talk to.
Yeah, that's the guy I want to talk to.
There's some departments, you go to that office and it's a brick wall with no way to answer the door without a key code. You can't talk to some of the bigger departments. There's no way to even enter the room.
In my head, my big dream for my little community is to have an actual, again, I don't know how far it off or if it's a real thing, but people are like, oh, we don't want that out here. I'm like, man, why can't we formally train guys? Like, I'm like, just formally train guys. Like, if I knew you, your brother, your dad were on it, to me, it was like, yes, if they are an arm of the uncles, I'm all for that arm of the uncles. I'm not for an untrained, uncertified, unaccountable arm of them.
The arm is going to be the busted arm.
Yeah, right.
The Thunderheart quote.
Exactly.
A little foreshadowing for
Yeah.
movie.
I just feel like I feel like the whole vigilante idea, it's a romantic version, right? It's like
that's what I was going to say
Wild
to
West.
Tin Man. Is
Cowboys, Yellowstone.
or even
stuff
like
and
Ghetto
like
too. Like we take care of our own.
in a perfect world,
Training day style.
Yeah.
They turn on
in
them.
a perfect world, the vigilante would have perfect decision making and act justly. But whenever you get a mob of people, I feel like that's not going to happen. So, like in something like where there's a lot of red tape, and it's like, well, in M's case, it would have been perfect if they just caught the guy, handcuffed him, and dropped him off at the police station. But they didn't do that. They wanted to do their own thing. Right. And I feel like you're only going to get that whenever you involve a mob of vigilantes. There's going to be too many misconstrued ideas of what justice is. Because in the movie, you had a lot of mothers in the crowd saying, no mercy for this guy, kill this monster. Going against everything that the guy just pleaded. Like, I don't have any control. I can't help it. Why should I suffer for that? He's posing all these questions, and still the people affected personally are speaking out of personal reactions.
Yeah, right.
So I feel like when you have vigilantism,
High emotion.
How are you? Because the people wanting justice are going to be the ones personally affected. And the people personally affected are going to act personally when they meet this person. So,
I mean, to be fair, he deserves to be put down, but
that we'll go into our next question then.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I wonder if I could historically offer
word it that way.
I wonder, like, if there's any, like, because this is post-Treaty of Versailles, Germany, and so you had three huge parties who wanted three very different things done to Germany. At Versailles, you had France, who wanted them to be wiped out the map. No more military, just no more Germany, almost. Great Britain that said, you know what, let's cripple them a bit because we don't want their navy beating ours. We still want to keep them as a trade partner. We're gonna go a little easy on them. We got to worry about Russia too. So let's get them a little bit. Let's cripple them a little bit. Let's hold them accountable. Let's keep an eye on them. The USA saying we still need them to be a part of their trade, of our economies. We need to make them stronger because it's going to lead to more resentment, and it's going to lead to a potential World War II, And then you had this whole idea of the League of Nations. I wonder if there's any from the filmmaker. I didn't dig, but I wonder if there's any metaphor of the different varying degrees of what justice looks like. Because I thought this when I was right. One note that I wrote down in my little notepad was Versailles. Like the idea of, is there any metaphor here? Is there any like allusion to that maybe the moms are France? Kill them. They don't deserve to live.
It's like
This is
identical
garbage.
to how close they were to the crime.
Yes.
How close they
well,
were.
That's exactly
in
true.
their,
So like
yeah.
I mean, so like all the trenches are still there in eastern in eastern France. There's still trenches. That's where the battles were fought. That's why they were so pissed.
Yeah.
Because it was fought in their backyard. Their cities, their
Yeah.
farms, their people raped, their farms killed and scorched. And meanwhile, Great Britain's like, yeah, you threw a few bombs this way. You attacked through Belgium, and they're an ally, so we got involved. But we fought on your. So you know what I mean? Like the people, the more farther away they were from it, so I can't help but think maybe not. But I wonder if there was any on purpose. Any like allusion to, the different groups in the audience, the different vigilantes, and then maybe the police trying to be like Woodrow Wilson with his 13 points, like saying, "Listen, this is the right way to do it. There's procedures here.
Yeah.
We got to have these in place. Otherwise, there's going to be more conflict. We want to reestablish the balance of power here, get things back to normal, and back to good." And meanwhile, all these other ones are very passionate about it, saying we need to cripple them, we need to destroy their military. Take all their overseas colonies away. And I got little peeks of that. I'm just thinking 1931, but when was it written? And you know what I mean? I found myself digging into all that. And again, it distracted me from
No, that's
the
still a
actual
cool
movie.
point, though. That's still
Yeah.
really cool. I
Yeah.
like that.
So I wanted to bring up, too, right before we go into the next question, but the crime bosses, their motives weren't, hey, this is a terrible thing happening to our community and our people. It was hey, we
taking
can't
money out of
conduct
our
business
pockets
here.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, we're not getting rich doing our crimes with all these policings ramped
Yeah.
up. So let's catch the guy so we can get back to making our money.
It's so funny how I kind of just lost that whole plot in all of this.
So, there's that again with vigilantes. You could have your own agenda. I mentioned race is one of them, but like you could have your own agenda when it comes to this. Going after certain crimes and certain things that need to be done that maybe the local law enforcement can't do. But you're going to get people that are going to be playing their own politics and getting what they want. But anyway,
It's interesting.
Tin Man. Can you condemn a person who can't control their actions?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next question.
Smooth transition. All right, next question. Next movie. Join us next week when we talk about Casper the Friendly Ghost.
No, I don't. I'm sticking with my answer. But, I mean,
I think you can condemn him in different ways.
yeah. But, no, the actions, whether or not they're impulsive, whether or not they're it's out of his will, like I can't help myself but do it. I'm like, okay, so you're more of a danger. Because you can't even control if you can or can't do it. But the out of his control actions are killing children. Mm-hmm. If I were to quote Rorschach from Watchmen, men get arrested, dogs get put down.
Another maxim.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, he's it's out of his control, and the actions that he's committing is at such a severe level. Nah, he's.
So I'm going to try not to bleed into a future question
Okay.
Along those lines of
At least
whether or
that's
not
my
whether or
opinion.
not they should
My opinion.
people afflicted
That's-
by that should be out and about. But so just sticking with, can you blame a person who can't control their actions? K-Max.
Sure, that's tough. I mean, in order to answer a question like that, I have to put myself a little bit closer to the topic. If it happens to someone I love, right? And then I think to myself, I feel like Samuel Jackson in is it Time to Kill?
Yeah.
And I hope they burn in hell.
Yes,
that
he
line.
deserved to die.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, that line. I remember that line and thinking, I was right there, goosebumps with my fist in the air. And I'm like, but when I think of the idea of mental health, though, I think of someone who's unfit, someone who's sick. And then I think of what Annalise said the other day about it. Like, why don't they have institutions?
I have an example for that one too.
If people are known to be sick and they have these troubles, why aren't there places where they can be housed and watched and given clinical care in a confined space because they're not well, self-proclaimed not well enough to be in the general public?
Yeah.
So maybe not incarcerated. And I told Annalise, I said, because we know better and we do better. We treat people, we give them outpatient therapy, we give them intense therapy, we give them medications. And Annalise goes, and yet you see every headline, it's someone who was mentally disturbed. Many people, these mass shootings and things like that, mentally disturbed. And I said, sadly, very often the ones that pull the trigger on these things are people who are like undiagnosed. They're, you find things in their search histories and their browsers and things like that, and you find manifesto or something like that, and you can see they had some problems, but it feels awful convenient sometimes to fall back on, are they even mentally able to stand trial? Maybe I watched Presumed Innocent, or the one with Ed Norton. Can't remember what's on that one where with Richard Gere.
Primal Fear.
Yeah. Where it's like he faked the whole thing, and then he's clapping at the end, and he's like mocking Richard Gere.
Yeah.
Knowing he can't be tried again. Anyway, like there's stuff like that that'll always make me afraid that someone's going to play the system and say, I'm for reform, right? I want reform. I want people to be able to be reformed if they can be. Well, it's a tough question. It comes back to being a tough question.
So I put it in a Tin Man. Your example. It's the story you told me.
Yeah.
Save it for 2 questions from now.
Okay.
It'll fit better. But so I can't relate to an impulse to kill, but I can relate to when you get sick, like GI symptoms, and say you can't help but puke, and you can't eat without puking. It's something you just can't help. And if someone says, "Hey, puking's a crime. If you puke again, you're I puked again. I can't help it. I am sick." So I think, well, should I get in trouble for puking? Mess up the couch or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like I'm still responsible for it, but if I were treated, I wouldn't have done it. If I were better, then I wouldn't be in that predicament. So when I put it that way, it's the person who did it still did it. And so what you have to do, I feel like they're still responsible for what happened, but you can also work on treating the problem. And so when I relate that back to M, so a person that commits crimes like that should be responsible for the crimes they committed, just like a drunk driver doesn't know what they're doing, but they still made a mess of things. But while they're doing time for that, you can kind of double up and treat what's going on, kind of overlap the time served, I guess. So I feel like that is more where I would lean. So it's kind of like, I guess, like Tin Man, yes, you absolutely can. It's like, yes, but you can also help these people.
I got no problem with that. If he had a compulsion to punch little girls in the arm, then he gets charged with that. But his compulsion was to kill them, so you're still getting charged with the murders,
right?
I mean, that's where I'm like, the crime was so high, death is. My first thought was like, oh, he deserves to die. But if he had gotten sick and he ruined everyone's carpets, he's got to pay for the carpets now. What if that?
There's got to be an accountability.
Yeah, right. But what kind of crime is he committing in that compulsion? Is it damaging people's carpets, or is it killing children? Yeah. So that's where I'm like, oh, he hit a level that's worth murder, or capital punishment, at least in my mind.
Well, I think maybe you guys read about Mice and Men. So I think of like the kind of the mentally ill cousin or friend, his friend
Lenny,
the big fella. I think that's a perfect example of it. Is like he knew. I mean, he probably would have gotten away with with what he did again. And he just said, he decided, his friend, his only friend in the world, decided, I got to put you down. Mm-hmm. And so the best he could do for him was to give him a good image and to tell him to think about it and look the other, you know what I mean? And then he did away with him. And man, we did essays in the English class about that, the ethics of it. And I just thought to myself, that's perfect for this, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I probably should get around to grading those at some point. No, like, real hard questions though. I'm working in like mental health field a little bit. You do have compassion. You want to see people reformed. You want to see behavior curbed. You want to see people get armed with more skills to be members of society. Certainly. But you know, when something's done though, there has to be a level of justice for the people that are, you know, you're not going to make them whole, as the lady says at the end. No one's going to bring them back. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be a level of justice exacted. I think there has to be. I don't know, and I'm not the one to do it, to understand what it's going to be. But there's got to be some accountability there. Even if someone is, you know, if there's a compulsion or whatever, well, if that compulsion took something precious from me, there's a price to be paid for that compulsion, I think. I mean, again, I don't know. But I just think hip shot reaction would be, you know, handle things with as compassionately as you can, but also there's nothing wrong with justice. I don't think, as long as it's, again, if it's done the right way and that there's due process, and if things are followed procedural and that person's been afforded that,
fits the crime.
I think so. But
Eye for an eye.
Again, I don't mind saying, what do I know? Because I've always been a bit of a pushover, and I'm always going to pull for the underdog. But at the same time, you put yourself close to that situation, you lose someone you love over it. It gets a little harsher for me. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes good film for me, when the vigilante is the dad who's just trying to get justice for his kid, or Taken, or
John Q.
Yeah, or Payback.
Oh, yeah.
Payback. Now all of a sudden, or what is it? What is the one?
Man on Fire.
Yeah, it's like, you hurt someone in my family. I want to do all of that to you and your family, and I want to find your grandparents. I want to make sure you feel it and they feel it, and it's like there's no limit to it. It doesn't end. That's terrifying when I feel that way. But those are the movies that I sometimes like to watch, because it's like, get them, you know. Mm-hmm. The story that Kevin Spacey tells of, you know, Kaiser Soze killing his own family because he would rather them die than have to live with the shame that this, you know, remember, like from Usual Suspects?
Yeah.
I remember seeing that thinking, oh boy, that's heavy, but man, I get it. Like, what am I thinking? Anyway, so I've exposed too much.
So before I go to the next question, I just want to reiterate that these are tough questions for we three men to try and
Just mere mortals.
Yes.
discuss.
Just normal
hopefully
men. Just innocent men.
Hopefully it creates some interesting conversation with listeners, but hopefully open and not too judgmental, I guess.
I mean, in my head, I'm just like, I try to be as honest as we can, you know, and this is how I feel. And I'm always quick to say, man, I don't know. It's hard. They're not easy questions.
Some of these questions, it's fine to say, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a toughy one.
So, Tin Man, I'll have you give your thing for this question here, your little anecdote. But if one can't stop their impulses, should they be allowed in public? And then, if they're not allowed in public, is that just another form of incarceration? So you had told me about an individual.
Yeah. So this guy, he was a drug addict, but he had like high levels of mental health, like possible schizophrenia. And the first time I dealt with him, he had stolen a car. Maybe that was the second time. Well, the first time I dealt with him, he had stolen a car, and he had broken into someone's house. I think he was staying in an apartment with someone. He broke into their room and stole their credit cards, everything out of their wallet, and stole the car. And hours later, I had already done the paperwork for the theft, and we found the car, and he's screaming at the windows because we tried to get into the car. And eventually I had to, like, the little bit of window, I was able to pull the window down. He was trying to bite my fingers. And I eventually got the door unlocked. I had one guy go to the other side to distract him so I could reach the door, unlock it, pull him out. and he's fighting. His feet are covered in blood. We get him into the car. We try to pat him down, get everything we could out of him. We found all the stolen IDs and credit cards in his pockets. This whole time he's screaming and fighting, trying to bite us. He's got razor blades and knives and other stuff in his pockets, and he's got 4 layers of hoodies on. By the time we get him to the jail, he's been screaming the whole time. Medical staff had to come check him out. He tried to escape again. It was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we got him to jail, he's now like crying, like, "Oh, they hurt me." They in the jail. The people in the jail are like, "Okay, well, let's bring him a wheelchair." You know, trying to coddle him, making it look like we're this police brutality at its finest right here. I was like, guys, we did not get a good chance to search him. This is all we could find on him. There could still be more stuff. They start taking his hoodies off, stuff. He's got brass knuckles. He's got more knives. He's got all this stuff in his pockets. He had like bunions or something on his feet, but he was kicking, so his feet are covered in blood. And they're thinking, what'd you guys do? I'm like, trust me.
Yeah.
That's the first time I dealt with him. So I end up charging him with all that stuff too. He's screaming in the cells and everything, and I find out later he had gotten a mental health evaluation. A week later, my partner deals with him after he steals another car and threatens to shoot people with what he has, with supposedly a gun that he had on him. They found out later it wasn't real, or it was a BB gun or whatever. But he had stripped all his clothes off, and they had SWAT team guys with ARs and shields go in to take him down.
Man.
Close the whole area off. I was like, okay, that's the third time we dealt with him. Or that's the second time. Then I dealt with him again the third time. Fight with him again. Another attempted stolen car. Trying to break into houses. I get injured.
Jeepers.
And I'm like, how many times are we going to fight with this guy? Or one of us get killed dealing with him before they do anything about it? I'm like, I sent 5 felonies his way. The next time they did it, they had 3 felonies, 4 felonies. I'm like, what do we keep doing with this guy until one of us gets killed? Like, how many times we got to deal with this guy?
Yeah.
Eventually, he gets locked up. But it was, I think, 4 events that we had that was like high-level, high-speed chases with fights and injuries and everything before they finally put him away. And I think they just sent him to a facility like an asylum or something, because I haven't heard from him, and it's been like a year now. But how many times do they release him? Like, he's not showing up to court. He's going to have just warrants for all this stuff. And then we got get a crew out to try to corner him and catch him while he's sleeping. That was the plan every time, was like, hey, if we can catch him while he's sleeping, that's safest for everyone.
Yeah. For him, too.
Absolutely.
Jeepers. I mean, it's almost like they're not doing him any favors by letting him be in the general population.
Right. Because he's got mental health issues that he's not taking any medications for. The only thing he's medicating himself with is crack.
So that's a real life example from just one officer from
last year. So.
One precinct. So picture thousands of officers across the nation and the stories they might have about dealing with these types of people, that because it's easy for the general public to say, of course you can't just lock up the mentally afflicted, of course you can't just do that. It's just like putting them in jail. But when you see real examples,
and that's also like the spectrum, that's the far end.
Yeah,
it exists. It exists. And there are people who, they're talking to themselves and they're acting nuts. And I'm like, hey, Billy, I know the guy. You need a coffee? It's someone I can talk to. But then you have people on the other end that are violent, dangerous, And
that's again where it comes down to understanding that and having trained people who understand that. I mean, there's probably a ton of trainings you guys got to go to. It doesn't feel like police work. It's like getting to know people and mental illness and things like that, identifying it. I mean, some of the biggest problems that I have whenever I see a video of something that I might disagree with law enforcement is someone who is mentally challenged getting treated in a way that they're not mentally challenged, right? So it's instead of someone understanding this is autistic, maybe someone who's on the spectrum, farther on the spectrum here, who can't communicate well and whose hands are going to be a little spastic and they can't control their hands. And it's like, if you had someone trained in that saw that and said, ooh, got someone here that's going to react in a way that's not normal, but it's not violent. You know what I mean? I feel like the answer there is just more training. Have people that can identify that, and I believe most probably can and probably do. But then you also know the context of being in the field where you're like, this guy has those tendencies, but he also has violence and has some addictions and has a record. That's a different person, in my opinion.
Right.
It's a different person than just a kid that, that's impulsive, that's going to be spastic and move their hands in a way and then when you give them a loud noise or you raise your voice, all of a sudden then they don't respond the way most people respond. They get a little bit more tense and they might even try to run at you. Well, it's like that I don't want to say it, but like almost like an animal that just like you yell at them, they just come closer up to you or whatever. And it's like, if it's an impulsion and they're not doing anything violent or anything, the videos that I see that I'm like, what are you doing? When it's a kid or someone that's mentally ill like that, where a trained eye sees this is someone there's a compulsion to do this, and it's not a violent move. It's a move that's just, it's an impulse that they can't control,
But the tough question comes after that is, okay, you recognized it. What do you do next? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you lock them up in an institution? Do you force them to go be seen by a counselor, by a therapist?
My head, it feels just so open and shut. Yes, I mean you can take them into custody, and yes, you can force an evaluation, and then if it's found that is valid, then you get them the help that they need. I mean that's unless you want to see them right back out there again, And if again, that's where there's a gray area too. Is I have no idea. I mean, I'd be on a policy board making decisions there, but I think working for the county a little bit back in the day, there are smart, compassionate people working along with law enforcement who have a lot of smart, compassionate people also trying to find solutions to these hard problems because those people are out there. And, they deserve their due process as well as anybody. And it's just a little bit more complicated for them, I think there's people that we know in our experience that have found themselves in those positions, and you're like, man, they're lucky they had an officer that operated with some knowledge and some grace and some procedure. You have a rookie out there who's afraid for their life, and you have this big giant person who has this mental illness that could easily find themselves pulling their trigger on that guy because they got a family too. That officer's got a family too, and they're just a person. No matter how trained and certified they are, you're acting on a split-second judgment call.
Right.
So with M, I think the way they presented this question kind of brings up a hidden question, though. Because obviously this guy, killing kids, we can't have you on the streets here. Mm-hmm. But he was in a institution or whatever, and someone cleared him to go back on the streets. So it raises the question, who's deeming people to be in public? Mm-hmm. Who's giving the okay, or who's making the decision someone should stay institutionalized? Who are these people and what are their credentials next? Because with M's example, the guy says, I kill and I don't mean to. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, if you don't mean to, go ahead. You can leave.
As long as you didn't mean it.
He feels guilty. He feels guilty. That's half of it right there.
And he knows it's wrong too. So that by itself is an admission of guilt. I did it. I can't believe I did it, but I did it. I did it several times.
No, that's the level though. The level he's at is child killer, right? Mm-hmm. So if the actions are something like a klepto, like someone who just steals constantly.
So keep the in other words, keep the punishment relative to what the crime is.
And I like how the law works, not how the back half of it works in New York State, but I like looking at, and it's written too. It's written so that anybody can understand it. This is what stealing is. Petty larceny is considered taking property that's not yours. That's it. That's all that's to it, right? There's no detailed lawyer talk behind it. There's a lot of charges that do have a little bit of that, but most of them are written so that anyone can understand it. Mm-hmm. That it's plain language. You can get it. You do this. This is what you get. Mm. And as far as how that works, it's perfect. I don't need to go into too much detail. I go, oh, he did this. Do I have enough proof to say that he did? Do I have enough beyond a reasonable doubt that this is what occurred? Okay, the charge can fit this, and we can arrest this person on this grounds. Then the lawyers, the prosecution and defense go to court, and he can bring a defense against, for himself and try to argue it there.
Yeah.
But my half of it is in black and white. It seems easy enough.
You
But
say right.
So I think your contribution here is going to help with the next question. Then, are crimes any better if you choose to do it, as opposed to
that's out of the question. That's like how
that's what I mean.
It takes it out of
you give more context to how this question can be answered. Then
right. There is a little bit of discretion what officers have, and I had one the other day. Guy gets rear-ended in a parking lot, or he's getting gas. Guy backs into him. Boom. He's like, "Hey, you hit my car." The guy takes off. So he chases him down, pulls into the parking lot at the mall. He gets out and says, "You hit my car." "I don't think I did. I don't think I did." Gets his phone out and starts filming where his car got hit and where his car got hit. Clear damage on both vehicles. The guy who fled knocks his phone out of his hands. He bends down to pick it up. The guy tries to put him in a headlock.
Oh, my.
This is my last shift. It's literally
Say,
the last shift.
right. I was on my way home.
Puts him in a headlock. The guy who's in a headlock, his son gets out, breaks them apart, and the two guys lump this dude up. He gets a split face pretty good. People go over there to try to protect him. He leaves and runs into the mall and kind of hides away. Our officers show up, try to talk to him. He avoids us. The guys who beat him up are like, "Hey, we're here if you want to talk to us." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, let's talk to you guys. You guys supposedly are the suspects. Everyone's telling me
Yeah,
you guys are
yeah.
the suspects. You guys beat them up." He was a big guy from Jamaica with a truck with a trailer on it because he was going to go pick up scrap in NT with his son. The other guy is Italian white kid, a little bit younger, he's probably his late 20s. Big split on his face. He's bleeding. He's got blood all over everything. He goes inside. As we start digging around, there's alcohol in the front seat. He smells like alcohol in there. He clearly hit the guy and fled. He started the fight. He ate the cost.
Yeah.
I go, we can throw the book at this guy. DWI, attempted assault, whatever. We could throw all these things at him. He did get the crap kicked out of him, though.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, for your troubles, we're going to give you this ticket. We're going to take your car from you so you can't drive it. He said, okay, that's fair. So there is some discretion we have for these things.
Sure.
Because the guy who got hit, he goes, the damage ain't that bad. My insurance isn't even going to cover my damage. I didn't know how bad it was because I couldn't see it. He hit my car and left. So I just took off after him. I didn't know how bad. There was barely any damage on my car. I would have just let the guy go, realized there was minimal damage on it. I'm like, you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, I have your number. I'll call you back if you need anything. You can go get your scrap from NT. I let him go. But that little bit of discretion allows for that
I think
play.
It's so important.
Allows for that play, but the ability to charge is going to fit regardless if there's, well, I didn't mean to, it wasn't this, I was drinking, it wasn't my fault. I'm like, I can charge all of this. And then there's still the discretion. So that's where the wiggle room comes in.
Well, relating it to this question then, is crime any better if you choose to do it? So in that case, you just described, would it be any different if the guy backing up, it was a car malfunction that hit the other guy?
No. Oh, you saying if there was a car malfunction?
Yeah, because then yes, he was driving the car. Yes, it hit. So if you read the law, maybe it says if you're operating the vehicle and it hits whatever, it counts as hitting the other vehicle. So relating it to this question, he didn't choose to do that, but he still hit the other vehicle. Does that make it a worse crime, or is it something that can be mitigated?
The accident portion,
So that's the ethical question here then. So relating it to M, he mentally had no capacity to stop himself from doing what he did.
Okay, so if you're going to go with just the vehicle portion of it, you're saying like he had no part in the vehicle and that just broke down, he backed into the car.
Right. and maybe the rest of it's the same where he tried to flee the scene, but the
rest
actual,
of it would still stay.
The actual act of hitting the other car, if that wasn't his fault, how I mean,
okay.
Is that still his fault if the car malfunctioned?
It's just
he's still behind the wheel.
I mean, I feel like he's still accountable because, you know, you got inspection, New York State inspection.
I was gonna say, I was gonna go down that route and be like,
Yeah.
listen, if your car's not up to par, there's 1,000 tickets in New York State that you can write for something of your vehicle not being up to code. You know,
Right. It's almost like I think. I mean, I don't have.
I was
an
trying
idea
to-
with the
yeah.
law, but it's like in my head, like inspection. It's like that comes with, you know, when I get my paperwork for inspection, it's like this is good for this, and they use the word reasonable in a couple spots because it's almost like there's like accountability that if you find out your brakes aren't working today, don't drive that car.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Like, I mean, a lot of it could be like, it was working the day we inspected it.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to
Stamp.
I'm trying not to go down that route.
Right,
I'm trying to
right.
keep it in the window that he's looking at,
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like I know it's what he's doing. So
Sure. And I guess that is a good way to phrase it, though, is like, you know, that. And there's a lot of people that get off of things from little things like that, like this didn't work, or this light was malfunctioning, or this sign was not. I couldn't see the sign here. You know what I mean? There's little gray areas that people.
And that's if, like, let's say something does. Let's say the stoplight malfunctions. All the lights are green, and everyone goes through and hits each other. That's, you know, New York State is going to pay everyone off. That's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to have a lawsuit and
Yeah.
whatever. If that's a town road, a village road, a state road,
Yeah.
whatever that light's attached to, that's who everyone's going to get their money from. But is he culpable if his vehicle is malfunctioning and then causes
wasn't
the
his
accident?
choice. It wasn't his choice, but it happened.
He would just get all the other tickets and arrest them.
He leaves.
Because I've had that. I've had situations where, like, this part's gray, but this part's not. And so the charge would just go to the other areas.
Like your response to what happened became the
Right.
chargeable
So,
part.
Right,
I mean,
right.
when you relate it back to this question, then crime is worse if you chose to do it.
Well, there's some crimes that aren't even crimes unless you choose to do it. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
So, like,
if you want to take
damage...
your
Okay, so here's one. It's criminal mischief. So if you intentionally cause damage to someone's property, it's a chargeable offense. But if you accidentally cause damage to property, it's not. If you recklessly cause damage and it's over $250, then it is.
So
But intent does fit into certain charges like that. Yeah.
So objectively, a crime is worse if you choose to do it.
I love that answer. I mean, that's a nice little yes, because this, and this, and this is laid
It's
out
black
there.
It's
Yeah.
black and white. There's a
Yeah.
lot of sections where it's like that. And I mean, he can say, I didn't want to. I'm like, but you're literally doing the killing. You're literally talk this girl to go get candy. You watch her go get candy at the candy store. Hold on. There's my knife. Sorry about
I
that.
think that
Let me
was
put that away.
another quote hidden observation about this character is at the end he says, "Oh, I do it. I can't help it," and then I go back to not remembering a thing about it, and then I'm normal again. But you see his process though,
Yeah.
and you see him. He's calm, collected. Oh, let's go buy yourself a little gadget from this store here, and then
Yeah, he's not like frantically.
I'm
like,
gonna peel this
foaming
apple,
at the mouth.
and be calm.
Yeah.
And he's of sound mind enough to see that he's got the letter
Yeah,
M
that's
on
right,
him
yeah.
to know that someone is chasing him now.
Yeah. Mhm.
All of that doesn't appear to be blackout. Can't remember what's going
Yeah,
on.
he's not. His eyes didn't roll back into his head, and
Yeah.
his body just operate. Yeah,
The film, I think, goes great lengths to make sure we see that too.
Yeah.
And even plays in a little bit with the song in the beginning, like almost like gives you some foreshadowing to what to expect out of this killer. With the song the girls are singing, the mom's up there. I hate when they sing that song. I told them to stop singing it twice today already, or whatever. I told them to stop singing that song. You know, it kind of gives what went on in the mind of the killer, and how their blade will be sure, and how they're
They
you know,
make
it's like
mincemeat out of you.
right,
Yeah.
and it's almost like it gives you. I mean, it certainly won't hold up in the court of law, but it kind of gives you a foreshadowing to the intent of the killer,
Right,
You know,
right.
and
Like maybe that's if I'm surrounded by 100 100 mob gang members who are like, hey, we're going to hold a trial. And then,
I mean, that might be my Hail Mary.
That's
Just to be like,
that's
hey,
what I was
you
thinking.
guys.
Don't think that didn't cross my mind.
I got no control.
Not me.
I mean, it seemed like his hail. It felt
Yeah,
like that even when
yeah.
he said it. It was a
Yeah.
masterpiece,
Yeah.
and it might have convinced. It might have convinced some folks because it convinced me. I was like, but then I'm thinking if I'm in that same position, it's not looking good for me.
Yeah.
I better try it. Better try the Hail Mary.
That's the Hail Mary defense right there.
I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you guys are all
I'm
worse.
a criminal.
'cause-
You
yeah,
guys are all criminals.
right.
In fact, you're worse criminals than I.
King Kong got nothing
Nothing
on
on
me.
Now, so who is responsible for the children's safety in this? Not just this movie, I guess, but in general.
I think it starts with the parents, right? If you got to keep your kids. I always say they got no one else but me at the end of the day, right? I mean, but I hope that society's making good rules and good. I hope the law enforcement's doing a good job, being diligent. I hope my community is mindful of that too. I don't think that the organized crime is responsible for the safety of my kids. If I thought that, then I'd be all supporting the uncles.
I think this movie does a sneaky good job of going full circle, though, because you start off with the family and how these murders affected the families, the mothers that are waiting for their kids to come home and never do. And then ending with because I'm pretty sure the one that speaks is the one that lost the child in the beginning.
That's the one
I
who's
think so,
cooking
too.
in the beginning.
Yeah, I
where
thought
they-
so too. I thought so
Yeah.
too.
So her saying this line, this isn't going to bring our kids back, is to me it's calling to the beginning of when that happened in terms of, well, if your focus is keeping them around, that wasn't going to be on the crime bosses, and it was almost like a admission of, well, if I kept them safe, and we have to keep, how does she put it? We have to keep better watch over the children.
We all do. Yeah.
So she's saying we, but to me she's sitting there with
All of you.
other
Yeah,
women,
all of you. Yeah.
other mothers with her. We have to, so kind of like together here, we have to take better watch of the children. You all do. So like that
all of us?
last part was like, you guys,
All of you. No, that's what,
all
all
of
of
you.
you. That's
Yeah.
right. All of
Yeah.
you.
yeah. So that was, I think that was my thought, and I think this is the one that we pretty much all agree that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yes, the police are there for when things go wrong and to kind of help things continue to be right. But we mentioned, or I made the little comment before, like on the, you guys mentioned when you were kids, you'd be out till all hours, come home at night, and as long as you came home. But if someone had told your parents, hey, there's been multiple children murdered in this area, I'm sure that would have been different.
Would have changed things for sure.
And all these mothers knew there was a child murderer because their kids are singing about it.
That's right.
And yet it's still, oh no, Susie will be home at whatever time after school.
Did you see her asking the other kids, did you see Susie?
Right.
She didn't come out.
It was like was it a postman?
Was that her name too? I just
don't
throwing it
know.
out there.
Elsie?
Elsie.
Elsie?
Yeah,
Does that
there
sound
it
right?
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think any of us would disagree that that's where it starts, is the parents and the families themselves.
Yeah, because they don't have a stranger danger idea yet. They didn't
Right.
know that he's going to charm them, buy them candy, and walk them away. Like, they didn't know that. I don't think they had that idea yet.
Even if they didn't, if you know there's a killer targeting children,
Yeah, you're going to be right here.
yeah,
Like, I'm not, yeah, I'll drop you off at school, but I'll be at the doors when it opens.
right. Like I will walk you to and from
Yeah.
school. Dinner will be a little bit late.
Yeah,
but
dinner might be a little late, but you'll be alive.
yeah. Why we laugh?
Cut this in post. Cut this in post.
So then we go into our last question, our last overall arching question of what is the impact of society and mental illness on justice?
Good question.
I missed that. What was that again?
What is the impact of society and mental illness on justice?
Good? No, bad.
This has been
Wait.
depth perception.
Wait, no. Yes?
Oh, yes. Oh, no. Just plain ho. From Biloxi Blues,
No, I haven't seen it.
Matthew Broderick.
Oh, no, I haven't seen it.
So I think what I think the impact is that justice
Yeah, thank you for leading us on that one.
isn't always a black and white thing. It's not always this is right, that is wrong. There are subtleties to it.
Yeah.
There are
Agree with that.
because I mean you were saying in your example about the guy who backed into the father and son. You could have thrown the book at the one guy, and you could have said DWI, this, that, give him multiple tickets. Probably could have just ruined his life, depending on what line of work he was in. But chose not to. So now you leave the world of lawfully correct and incorrect, and you get into what's morally right, what's morally wrong. Does this guy learn his lesson? Did he mean to do it? Was he having a bad day? There's all these complexities to the final result of what happened to him. So I think overall that's kind of what this movie is presenting, is that yes, you have the child murdering, but if you're going to break it down, you know, you have this guy that's wanted for manslaughter. You have these crime bosses that have been doing this. You have the police have been raiding innocent people's homes and businesses, and causing, you know, destruction and loss. So how right, how wrong are these actions by all these individuals? So I think overall that's what the movie presents to us. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it goes, to me, like, big picture, to answer the question for me is, where do you put your resources? If you're looking at mental health issues when it comes to, like, law enforcement, you know, are we putting enough money into training? Because like the different numbers out there as far as like the people that are like use lethal force, some like 25% have some mental illness. You know, where there's deadly force used, like the national numbers, like quarter of them are someone experienced like a mental health crisis, and you know, and out of that, there's probably some gray area where they're doing something that's harmful to themselves or others that needs to be stopped. They're gonna hurt themselves or hurt someone else. Of course, we see the ones that, you know, the poor person that just can't help themselves gets gunned down or something. That's the ones we see, right? But I think when the policymakers need to look at where they're using the resources, right? And understand there's some dynamic there that that is unique to mentally challenged people, mental health issue people. When they get released from prison or jail or even in a mental institution, they're going to have some reintegration problems just from the nature of their mental illness. They're going to have housing issues. They're going to be more at risk for socioeconomic problems. They're not going to have job opportunities just from having that mental illness. And so that automatically is going to put them in a different group, crime-wise, that is more susceptible to committing crime or having crimes committed to them, just from being mentally ill. Those people will, so they're going to have issues with that. Again, like what Annalise brought up, when there was deinstitutionalization, these people, many of them went out into society with very little, training wheels, for lack of a better term, very little support. And so those people were thrown out into society, and then society was like, okay, law enforcement is now like, how do I handle this? What do I do right here? How do we address this? We've not seen this before. There was something I had on here about, overrepresentation of individuals with mental illness in jails and prisons. And then what are you doing once they're in jail? How are they being treated like the general public in jail? Or are they getting rehabilitated in the way that matches their mental health needs? And who's got the time to look into all of this? Because if you want to properly rehabilitate them, or if you believe they can be, you need to be doing it in ways that are effective for them. It's not just one size fits all for the prison system to work with these people. But often you look at their crime. You don't look at that person. You look at what did they do, and you just punish them for that. So I would say, don't be surprised when they're reintegrated and they don't have the skills necessary to be reintegrated unless you take a good hard look at it. People smarter than me that have a lot more time on their hands to look at it and say, how are we meeting this need when they're inside? And then, or do you just say, like this particular character from the movie, if you get a life sentence, man, for your own good and for the good of the little kids out there, you can't be out in the public. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's it. Then maybe you just can't, for your own good and for the sake of these kiddos. You can't be out there. And there's all kind of from that all the way to they don't deserve to live. There's all kind of instances, shades of justice there, right? I think I lean toward what Tin Man said is, the punishment fits the crime. So, maybe you're not fully capable of controlling yourself from doing these things. But if you did this, there's still a level of accountability that you have to pay for.
Right. You still live in a society governed by laws.
By laws.
So if you break the law.
Yeah. And there's always that side of me that's always going to be sensitive to, they're individuals, and you want to make sure everybody's getting the help they need and taking their meds and getting their clinical. But how many people do we know that, it's like undiagnosed, everybody knows, like, man, that person there's got something wrong, but they've never been to a clinician. Mm-hmm. They'll never take meds. And the first time it's going to present, everybody's like, if that goes sideways, it's going to go so sideways. Right. And we know people in communities like that. And I don't know what the answer is. People need help. People need services. And if you can get them those services, great. It very often, though, it presents in that crisis, though. Mm-hmm. That's when it presents.
To me, it also relates back to our question on who's responsible for the children.
Yeah.
A lot of these people, it's not just, I've turned 25 and now I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's been something that's been brewing for a long time.
That's right.
So with work, part of what I do is lead cases. And you'd be surprised at the amount of parents that just blow it off. That they, you tell them, hey, lead can cause this, and that, developmental delays, and, of course, that can lead to other things like what we're talking about. And the amount of parents that are, I'll get it done, and just never do, or say, don't harass me, I don't want to hear it, and hang up and never get it done. And that's just a microcosm of, hey, my kid needs help, I better go get them help. Because if they're able to blow off something like a little finger prick for a lead test, then you can only imagine the stuff they're going to blow off with the kid's bigger needs at the time. You know, if they have mental health needs, are they? It's going to be up to the parent to get those referrals and get those kids to the appointments. And oftentimes, there's many parents that won't do it or can't do it or just don't understand that that's their responsibility. So again, you know, relating it to this question, who's responsible for the safety of our children? Well, it starts with the parents and the families. And I mean, to me, that's a pretty close to home example of where it starts.
Sure is. And I love the prevention aspect you put in there. Like our own kids, you know what I mean? I always joke like that, like, you know, what do you raise your kids? You know, again, it sounds so silly, but like, don't raise any serial killers and keep them off the stripper pole. You know what I mean? I hear people say that all the time in the neighborhood. It's like, you know, you raise your kids. It's like, well, here's the two main goals. I don't want to raise any serial killers. That's one, you know, no Dexters. And then keep them away from that lifestyle.
Poindexters only.
Yeah, Poindexters only. Give me a bunch of Arthurs.
Well, Tin Man, I want to hear your views on what the impact of society and mental illness is on justice.
Yeah, ditto. Nah.
Once again, this has been Death Perception.
Roll credits.
Okay, there you go. You had to reword it for me because for whatever reason it sounds
How does
like
society
gibberish to
and
me.
mental illness impact justice?
How does society and mental health impact justice? There is some level of culpability, you know, that's diminished because of levels of mental health. I know that in certain courts that they'll issue more mental health evaluations or drug tests and stuff like that instead of or in lieu of like restitution. So the courts do have like access to that. Scheduled meetings with counselors in the midst of their court proceedings, stuff like that. They'll instead of doing time, they'll give them, hey, you have to meet with this counselor so many days a week, and you have to stay on scheduled meetings. If you violate any of these meetings, you miss any of these meetings, we'll send you right to jail to do your actual term. And that's some of the ways that I've seen them use, or if mental health is like used as a defense.
So like it's almost like the other half of law enforcement, like the when it gets to the courts,
Right.
they have that. I see.
Yeah. So like my stuff still sits black and white regardless of, and we do have discretion on how hard we want to charge, depending on that. Because I've met people who I'm like, okay, you don't have the mental culpability to understand what you did, and you know sometimes a firm talking to might be the solution that day. There are juveniles that we deal with who are like just didn't know any better, real hyper. There's at least one kid I can think of. He's just really hyper. He's up all night. He's the one kid who lives in this area that's multiple houses or multiple dwelling area, and he's riding his bike like laps around, and we'll sit and chat for like 5-10 minutes every time I see him. But he gets into trouble all the time, but it's just because he can't stop to settle down. And so we had to find different means of trying to punish mom, because I'm like, mom is not doing her job.
Yeah.
So there's a law, or it's like a new in place ordinance law for where I work, where if there's a tenant and it's a nuisance problem, that they can fine the owners, you know, $100 each time we have to deal with an issue. And so we had to go like past him, because I'm like, it's not you. Mom's got to get you reined in. I can talk to you all day long, and we have a good rapport. But if mom doesn't make sure you're taken care of, or you're doing what you're supposed to, you know, because I talk to mom, and mom's first thing she goes, lock him up. I'm like, that's not my job. I don't just lock up your kid who's just a little hyper, you know, he's not a bad kid, but he's you know, you need to wrangle him in. This is your job. This is not my job.
Well, it's similar with school teachers. Fix them. That's your job.
Yeah.
Fix them. Get my kid right, man. Don't send him home the same way.
Yeah.
Well, ma'am, you've had him for this long.
Yeah, they should just like take him away. I'm like, take him away. He didn't break any. That is a tough balance. I imagine you probably get that as much as we do. It's like, you know, they come to a meeting and you're like, God bless parents too. Parenting's hard. I know firsthand. But you know, it's work. You put the work in, and it's a little bit easier.
And you get people maybe who sometimes don't put the work in, and then they get more angry because, well, why didn't you fix my kid? My kid's coming here and your kid comes here hungry and not sleeping.
Yeah.
Your kid comes here hearing you and so and so screaming at each other, or maybe not being home, and their lowest unmet needs not met. Then they're coming here hungry and tired, and traumatized, looking over their shoulder like, "Am I safe? Am I?"
Yeah.
And they don't want to go home on the weekends, and you're going to yell at me for trying to, provide a level of care and service for this kid. And
it's like they've given them sometimes no discipline, and now that the kids are bigger than you, now that they're 15, 16, and you want us to discipline them now, I'm like, I can do my best to try to mediate your side of the story and talk to this kid like he's an adult.
Yeah. But
you've done nothing to instill a good parent-child relationship where they should just be able to understand and respect you.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that loving parent needs to be an authority figure that puts some structure there and puts some guidelines up so that it doesn't have to be school administration or teachers or law enforcement. It doesn't have to be. I think you see good communities that have a nice synergy between law enforcement, community. Yeah, like they have a nice. You say synergism?
Yeah, that's the word.
It's the best word ever. Voz leaves the room for 3 minutes, and here we are at synergism. Good gravy. Anyway,
you're welcome.
Yeah, so good. He's got what do I got to go back and edit here?
Yeah, right.
But I think to myself, you look at good PTAs and good communities, there's a nice team approach to the kid, and I feel like those are the best communities where law enforcement, community, school system, teams, businesses, they all kind of work together, keeping kids pointed in the right direction. They do a nice job. I mean, I think it's super cool. Like when you said smoke dance with the uniform on, or I see officers throwing passes with kids.
Yeah,
I see that all the time. It's super cool to see shooting baskets with kids. It's like that goes farther than any program or organized team that has a police logo on their shirts.
Right.
You show me an officer that's out there playing with them and the kids are laughing with them. You're building relationships right there. Anyway, we got it figured out, Voz.
Yep.
We solved it.
This turned out to be a Tin Man episode, huh?
I love it.
Hey, I haven't had one in a minute. So.
It's good, man. It's lean heavy. That's terrifying. That's scarier than talking and singing like that guy.
So I think we pretty much nailed how relevant this movie is to today, between society and justice and ethical questions and even filmmaking. So I'll ask our last part of the agenda and relate this back to our previous episode of ethical questions. And I feel like this movie relates kind of to A Few Good Men more than a lot of the others in terms of how it presents its ethical questions and the use of the courtroom as a place for fair trial where the audience can see the information presented to them and make their own decision on their beliefs. So sticking with relating back to our previous episode, do you guys feel that this movie presented a fair argument for all parties involved, or do you think the filmmaker took a side and was biased in their presentation?
That's tricky. I think it's tricky with this one.
I think they tried to pick the worst possible crime and then muddy the water. So you can't get much worse than child killer.
Yeah. Premeditated, planned.
Premeditated.
I'm going to lure you away.
Yep. And then try to make his culpability obscured.
That's interesting.
And how far can he, and they built a courtroom for him that he can call into question any authority they have. And so now they try to muddy it up as much as possible. And then before it went to the actual court, they cut it off. So it's like, no, you're only left with this. This is
Right.
all you got to judge the story on.
That's what I had a real hard problem with.
And I think,
I wanted to see what really happened.
Yeah.
well, to me, that's what makes it a more unbiased presentation, is because they don't give you the final verdict. They, judges, whatever they are, get back to their seats. We get the ending remarks from the mothers, and then it cuts to black. So it's really up to us to take that information and do with it what we will, and form our own verdict ourselves. So to me, it was less of a filmmaker's message on what is right and what should have happened here, and it was more, here's the information. I'm going to give you all sides of it. I might have my own thoughts, but here's the question I'm proposing to the audience. So that was my thought. Is that was
I think I
little bit
agree
unbiased.
with both.
I think he
both-
tried to make it as unbiased as possible in that type of situation.
Right.
I mean, there's several ethical questions. I think they were pretty neutral on all of them, because it showed the good and the bad of the police, good and the bad of the organized crime guys.
Right.
So there's that ethical question.
The
visual-
lack of police led to the rise of the criminals trying to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Like everybody's failing and then covering their bases back again on areas.
that was
It's
pretty
like,
cleverly done too in the film. Yeah, that was pretty cleverly done. I don't think it gave a strong viewpoint of this is right and they should have been this way on this guy, and
I think the only time it may have took a side was when they kidnapped Beckert, and they're in the basement of this old building, which already is funny to me because this whole process isn't exactly on the level.
yeah, right.
I feel like that's the only time that the filmmaker was like, "Oh no, you guys, these people here, all these criminals don't have a right to judge this guy," and because before they could even hand down a judgment or a decision, they were stopped by the police. All of them were stopped
arrested.
by the police, the actual police. So like, I feel like that was the one instance where the filmmakers were like, no, this can't happen. Like, these criminals can't judge another criminal for how the severity.
More criminal he is compared to you guys. Yeah.
Right. Especially because the one guy, the main person, wasn't just charged with like one count of manslaughter. It was like multiple.
Yeah,
It's like,
multiple counts of manslaughter.
he's killing someone's father, brother, son. He's killing someone that's equally as loved by their family, or possibly loved by their family, as these children that are being killed. So, but yeah, so that was, any other thoughts going back to our previous episode relating to this one?
I mean, I think it's a neat way that the filmmaker presents the ethical question. Like, you feel so angry and so terrified for these kids, and you feel the hurt that the parents feel, and the fear that the community feels. It's the fact that the organized crime are worried about their money and their profits is almost a side note. It's kind of like a side note. It comes down to how big a deal it is to the entire community that these kiddos are getting killed. I mean, it presents the ethical question of, is vigilante justice? That's the one that I was almost fully focused on that until the very end soliloquy of our perpetrator. That's when I was really like, oh, the filmmaker's posing a question of, is this guy fit to stand a fair trial? He's not getting a fair trial anyway. But if he were, is he fit to get it? Then he ended up ultimately getting the fair trial. And then we don't get that's what my brain was waiting for. As soon as I saw the ending, I'm like, did something skip on this? Is this
Yeah.
Is this it's like the Imperial Affliction and Fault in Our Stars. In the middle of a sentence, the book stops because it's supposed to show the end point of the person's life.
Yeah,
It stops in the middle of a sentence. That's how this was. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm not getting a judgment here. Because if I have a judgment, it's almost like A Few Good Men. I can see where right ends up on then.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see it. It's really that's really interestingly done.
Any other thoughts, Tin Man?
I was surprised at how wide that guy's eyes opened.
A little disturbing.
They're just like, wow, those are some. I would have suspected that
Some
guy of murdering
thyroid
children from the
problems,
beginning.
Yeah.
I was like, hold on, everyone sit still. There's your suspect.
Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers peepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers peepers, where'd you get those eyes? That's some good singing right there. It's got to be 1 o'clock.
It's gotta be around 1. That's
Around 1. Good thing I only have to work. Good thing I only got to give them 4 hours.
The later 4 or the earlier 4?
Not sure.
Not sure yet. Sounds like breakfast.
Really does. Oh, it sounds like breakfast.
Sounds like 10 o'clock breakfast. Sounds like 10:30 breakfast.
Ooh.
I wish. 10:30 p.m. maybe.
Mm-hmm.
We missed that 2 hours ago.
Well, we finish our episode on March Madness. Congratulations to the Florida Gators. Also, shout out to UB Women's.
Oh,
the
NIT champs.
Yeah.
NIT champs.
Good for them.
UB
Bull
Lady Bulls. I'd call them She Bulls.
She-bulls.
Oh, I like that infinitely better. Congratulations to the UB She-Bulls.
They wobble, but they don't fall down. That's awful. Like Weebles.
I get you. Well, hopefully this mediation has been more mellifluous than melodramatic. We try modestly to migrate into metaphysical material with maturity and metal, and not to misconstrue, mitigate, or mock the mores and miscreants we see in movies like M. I apologize for this meticulous and magniloquent medley of morphology.
Oh my God.
But we are not the misanthropes that many may make us out to be after this episode.
I might